now, rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild, Haitian in the building, so original. Got the haters catching feelings. Get your hands up to the ceiling and keep them held high, cause St. Louis isn't ready. Forget about it, goodbye. Hold on, we just saying hi. Five somebody, rise up. Weekdays, catch us live, somebody. Let's go.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon and good evening. Welcome to the Pascal Show. Hope you guys all doing well out there. It's time to wake up. Happy hump day to every single last one of y'all. Happiest of hump days. Yes, we got things we got to get into. Things have been popping off. Things are already going on right now as we speak, which we're most likely going to hop into in just a second. But how y'all doing? How are y'all doing? Y'all feeling good? Y'all have a good day. Y'all have a good night last night. Hopefully it was wonderful. Hopefully it was everything it needed to be and then some. All right. But again, like I said, another day above the dirt, regardless of if the day was good or not. Another day above the dirt is always a blessing. And another day to turn everything around, right? If you had a bad day yesterday. So before we get into everything, please do me a favor. All right. Hit that like button down below. Crush it. Do what it do. Hit that reaction button if you're watching that on those other platforms. If you are watching on these other platforms like Facebook, X/Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Rumble, Twitch, Kick, you know what to do. Hit that follow button. Follow. Don't forget to subscribe right here on my YouTube channel. Please and thank you. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Set it to all so you know whenever I go live, whenever I upload, because honestly, it's random or it's breaking news or whatever I can get in here. All right? So hit that notification bell. Hit that join button down below. Become a member. Check out my Patreon. And, of course, check out pascalmerch.com. Excuse me. Check it out, pascalmerch.com. We got some really great stuff over there. pascalmerch.com. Anyway, guys. There's some things that have been going on, overnight. There's been some crazy stuff that's been popping off. There's a lot of things that have been happening as of late. Okay, one, yes, thank you guys so much. Yes, yesterday during our live show, we crossed 200,000 subscribers, which is amazing. It's dope as hell. Just a quick recap. We had quite a bit to talk about, and obviously there's a lot going on today, too. Let's not forget Joe Kent, all right, the director of the Counterterrorism Center, okay, who is a basically like top-ranked dude that works right underneath Tulsi Gabbard. There's a reason why I'm mentioning her name, who works right underneath Tulsi Gabbard, resigned out of nowhere, out of protest or in protest of this Iranian war. He said, that the Iran war is a bold-faced lie. That's what he basically said. The reasons why we are deployed over there and doing what we're doing, the reason why Trump put all of his stuff over there is only to appease Israel. And some lobbyists, some people that are in his corner that are basically saying, please send the troops over there, send planes over there, start dropping bombs on it, right? Because that's what Israel wants. This is what he said in his resignation letter that was sent directly to Trump. Now we've been hearing some other things. Now, okay, first and foremost, I want to make it abundantly clear. And I want to show you guys. Okay. Tulsi Gabbard is right now in the middle of a congressional hearing right now for basically talking about worldwide threats and also everything revolving around the Iran war. Okay. So they're having a full-on hearing right now. As soon as I started the live, she was already starting to talk. We are going to be listening to that and going into that very, very shortly, okay? But there are a few things that we need to know on what the hell is going on. Now, like I said earlier, yesterday, Joe Kent resigned from his position, all right, as the director of the National Counterterrorism of the National Counterterrorism Center. Okay. He said, I'm done. The Iran war is a lie. It is not real. They're saying that there were threats, but there were not any threats. None of that at all. Right. But now we're starting to hear some other information, like J.D. Vance may have known about this resignation a day or two before he actually put in his papers to say that he was gone. And allegedly, J.D. Vance was begging Joe Kent to go easy on Trump. Yes. He said, hey, please do me a solid. Don't go in. Don't go in on him. Right? Just, go easy on him. Right? Be nice to him. Go easy on him. Right? So let's take a look at this. This is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. He gave him a heads up. He talked to, I guess he and JD Vance are tight. They cool. They friendly. Right? And he said, hey, I'm about to leave. I'm about to be out. I can't do this. This is all a bold-faced lie. Everything about this is a fugazi. I can't stand for this. And JD Vance was like, okay, I understand that you want to go, but can you please just, can you just chill? Can you just not go too crazy? Can you just be cool with it? Right? So let's take a look at this. Before Donald Trump's top spy chief submitted his stunning resignation over the Iran war, he had secretly confided his plans to his closest political ally, J.D. Vance. Now, here's the thing. I wonder why he would go and talk about this to Vice President J.D. Vance, of all people. Any ideas, guys? Any takers on the possibility of why he would maybe confide into the vice president of all people? Think about it for a second. Just think about it for a second. Because I think you all know what I'm thinking. I think you're thinking what I'm thinking. All right. Joe Kent quit as Trump's director of the National Counterterrorism Center on Tuesday, accusing Israel of pressuring the U.S. into a conflict he says was built on mother-loving lies. So Kent, a close political ally of Vance and Tulsi Gabbard, presented his resignation letter to the vice president 24 hours before dramatically stepping down from the administration. So the VP encouraged him to speak to the White House chief of staff and Trump before making any final decisions. The VP encouraged him to be respectful to the president of the United States, to POTUS. Now, what's interesting about that is, why would he say go easy on him? Right? Please be nice. Please be respectful. This is just my thought. This is just my theory. This is just me theories right here. Here's my theory. I think that they knew. I think that he knows what they know. And I believe, it's hard to not believe the director of national counterterrorism. It's hard to not believe the person who's supposed to know if ish is about to hit the fan before anybody else. It's hard to not believe him when he's saying that a war that we are in, which it is a war. It's hard to not believe him when he says it's a lie. Now, I get it. There's other people out here that are going to sit there and be MAGA till they die, right? And again, Trump can do no wrong. If he makes a mistake, they find a way to finesse by using semantics, by whatever, right? And they'll try to find everything under the sun to make an excuse. I would say the same thing for any other president that was in this situation. Doesn't matter if he's MAGA, doesn't matter if he's hardcore left or hardcore right, doesn't matter. When you have your team and they believe in nothing but everything that's coming out of that president, that current standing president's mouth, you can't help but sit there and side-eye everything that comes out. You can't help it. You got one person, you got one naysayer, and this naysayer is one of the biggest naysayers to naysay about a war, period. This is not some in-house chef, White House chef, who makes his favorite, I don't know, cheeseburger or something like that. Okay? No. That's not. This is a guy who is supposed to know if we're about to get hit with something. He's supposed to know if we're having threats, if there's some imminent threat lurking in the background. He's supposed to know. That's his job. Like I said, this isn't Trump's personal trainer. He don't have a personal trainer, but you know what I'm saying? This ain't his personal trainer. This ain't his doctor. This ain't his in-house chef or maid or butler or even, it's not any of them. It's a guy whose job is to know if we're about to get hit with stuff, if we have problems coming. He's supposed to know if there's imminent threats universally coming towards America. So why would we not believe this man on why he's stepping down? To step down, by the way, is absolutely crazy. Okay? It's absolutely crazy for you to be like, I'm out. I'm done. I'm out. Think about that for a second. That means he knows a lot more than he's letting off. I'm sure he knows a lot more than just saying that the Iran war is built on lies, but I digress. We're not going down that rabbit hole. We're going to stay at the surface. We're going to stand at the rabbit hole and go, oh, there be the hole. Okay. How deep? We don't even need to know how deep it goes. We just know that there's the rabbit hole. All right. And this man says something up going on in there. So that's good. We don't need to know anymore. But what's crazy is you got his team coming out here saying all these things, right? They out here talking. They out here talking and saying, well, he's totally wrong with what he's saying. He doesn't even know what he's talking about, right? Even Trump himself basically said that he's weak. Good guy, but he's weak. Yet you're the one who picked him for the job. The only reason why you're saying these kinds of things is because he is going against you, and clearly he is not for this war. And that's why you tripping. So like I said, this is just some strange, like I said, this is some very, very strange activity that's going on. And then you got his hardcore MAGA supporters that are totally down for this war, that are going to lie through their teeth about the situation and basically say that Joe Kent is losing his mind, or he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's wrong with what he's saying. You got to remember, this guy is hardcore MAGA, Joe Kent. Hardcore MAGA. Hardcore MAGA. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he says, I'm done. I'm out. All of this is one big fat ass lie. That is a huge problem. Massive problem. And what are they doing? You're seeing MAGA trying to do the backstep. They're trying to do the shuffle. They're trying to do that two-step real quick with some BS. So again, this is absolutely crazy to me. But let's continue on. So again, he said, be easy, be respectful to the president, right? So following the meeting, Kent issued a blistering resignation that claimed Trump was tricked into striking Iran due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby, adding, I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war. Kent accused the president of reneging on the non-interventionist principles he campaigned on. Yeah, he said, I'm not here for pointless wars. I'm not here for endless, frivolous wars. And guess what? We're in another potentially endless, frivolous war. So Gabbard was present during Kent's in-person resignation to Vance, according to Washington Post. That's also huge. Gabbard was in the room as he said, I can't do this anymore. I can't stand for this war anymore because what's going on is a lie. Gabbard even knew. Gabbard even knew. It is unclear if Vance warned other members of the administration about Kent's plan to discredit Trump's war during his resignation. Now, what's interesting about him possibly not saying anything about this resignation would be kind of diabolical. If you ask me, if I was Trump, I'd be like, what? You knew and you didn't even bother to tell me? You didn't even bother to give me a heads up? You didn't even not even a hint that this was about to go down? Possibly. They say it's unclear if he warned other members, if not as well Trump, that Kent was going to come in with this 1-2 punch, with this sucker punch. Now, if I was Trump and I was all hardcore about this war, because clearly he's campaigning pro-war. If you don't notice that, he's campaigning it. He wants this war. Even though he tries to make it seem like it's not a war, he's still campaigning for this war to happen. I think we've all seen that. We have the best military in the history of the world. Right? He's been saying stuff like that all the time. On repeat. Right? Now, there is rumor that J.D. Vance is not cool with this war at all. He's not standing for it at all. If you notice, he hasn't really been that vocal lately. He really hasn't. Sure, he's had no problem speaking out on ICE agents and, the anti-ICE protests and all that. And he's been out there being seen on those things. But when it comes to this situation, he hasn't really said much. In fact, it's funny because he did like a press conference. He did a speech like maybe last week or a few days ago, something like that. And he didn't really talk about it even. He was there to speak on something completely different. So he did speak on those things, but he didn't really speak on what's going on overseas. He didn't talk about what's going on in the Middle East. Sure, he's being seen he's being seen in the Oval Office during press conferences and all that, but apparently he is not okay with this. He has not been okay with this. And my question is Tulsi Gabbard okay with this? Like I said, Tulsi Gabbard is in a hearing right now as we speak. I'm sure she's done talking now, but she was speaking about this. She's there to do a hearing about these worldwide threats that are supposed to be hitting not only just this country, but other countries as well throughout the world. And I'm kind of curious, did she know before walking into that meeting with Joe Kent and J.D. Vance that Joe Kent, was going to resign due to the lies that he believes are being said about this Iran war? I think it's interesting. Also, I think that, Tulsi Gabbard is also one of those people who's just MAGA till she die. And I feel like she's willing to do some dirty work for Trump solely because it's Trump and it's for MAGA. I truly believe that too. So again, this is some very, very interesting, a very, very interesting situation. Okay. And I'm wondering what made this guy right here, Joe Kent. Okay. What made Joe Kent say, you know what? I'm out. And what was the smoking gun information that he saw that made him realize, wow, they lied to us. They're lying to the American people about this Iranian war. Interesting, right? Now, there was another leader that lost their life. We're going to talk about that in a second. Actually, we're going to talk about that right now. This is pretty insane. Another Iranian leader lost their life. Apparently, this particular Iranian leader was also someone who handled sleeper cells, managed sleeper cells that were targeted to take out Trump as well. We got to take a look at this before we go into this hearing. But this is just absolutely crazy, guys. Crazy stuff going on. What the heck?
And we're starting with this, the latest on Operation Epic Fury.
This is what happened when you don't want to negotiate. Israel unleashing fresh strikes on Iranian terror proxies in Lebanon as Iran retaliates, targeting central Israel with dangerous cluster missiles.
Yep, let's go to Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst Tel Aviv in Tel Aviv as Israel reveals it has taken out another top Iranian official. Trey.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. A senior Israeli official telling Fox News that Ismail Khatib, Iran's intelligence minister, was killed in a precision strike overnight. Khatib was responsible for managing Iran's global cells, these sleeper cells in countries around the world that even threatened U.S. politicians and President Trump. This official says this man had blood on his hands, American blood. They go on to say that Khatib was actually the only person to survive the opening round of strikes in Operation Epic Fury that killed Iran's supreme leader. Those 40 officials killed in around 40 seconds. All of this taking place as we're tracking new incoming fire from Iran. Overnight, missiles soared through the skies of central Israel. Some of them intercepted. Others had cluster munitions on top. And you can see in this aftermath video here, just outside of Tel Aviv, flames spewing from a parking area beneath a building around the central part of the country. 2 people were killed in the area of Ramat Gan. We just returned from that site where we were interviewing a military spokesperson. A significant amount of damage to apartments there. All of this was taking place as the Israelis launched a fresh round of strikes against the Lebanese capital of Beirut, going after Iran's largest proxy there in the Dakhia neighborhood. These strikes took place following new Hezbollah rocket fire into central and southern Israel. You can see here the strikes in Lebanon that took place overnight and the aftermath video there in Beirut. An entire apartment building was taken out in one of those strikes. Now, the Israelis are not just striking Lebanon, they are also striking Iran with a new wave of strikes today. And we know that yesterday, the besieged forces, this wing of the IRGC, were targeted there at their checkpoints around the Iranian capital of Tehran. President Trump was asked yesterday about the threat from Iran. Here's what he had to say.
So they've been a threat for a long time, but they've really been a threat. If I didn't terminate Obama's horrible deal that he made, the Iran nuclear deal, you would have had a nuclear war 4 years ago. You would have had nuclear holocaust, and you would have had it again if we didn't bomb the site.
The most important thing to look at here is Iran's ability to deliver missiles to Israel and regional countries. And that was the concern that President Trump was talking about there. Iran was pursuing a nuclear weapon. And if they could attach that weapon to the top of a ballistic missile, it would be landing in regional countries or allies like Israel. And
I want to make this abundantly clear. They have confirmed. Remember yesterday we were like, I was sitting there saying, I don't know if Ali Larijani has lost his life or not. They're saying that he did. That they Israel saying that they did take his life. But now they're saying, like I said, that there's several other leaders that they took out, or at least that's what Israel is saying. OK, now I want to make this abundantly clear. Iran is now saying that, well, one is for sure. The Ismail Khatib, OK, he is gone. He was killed overnight in a precision strike. All right. And that's what they're saying is confirmed. OK, that is a confirmation for sure. So, again, all of these Iranian leaders are getting taken out. OK, one by one, or actually, like it seems like 3 by 3 or 5 by 5. All right. Or, you know, in Khamenei's situation, 40 by 40. OK. But they are taking them out, which is absolutely insane. And then, of course, U.S. has deployed bombers as well, dropping 5,000-pound bombs, okay, as Trump is saying, a lot of pounding, right? So there's a lot of pounding going on in Iran as well. They're going deep. They're pounding deep, okay? They're going into bunkers and all that. They're bombing bunkers, etc. The pounding is so deep. So deep. Okay? It's bad. It's bad. All right? Yeah, bunker busting. They straight up busting. All up in them busting. All up in them bunkers. Okay? All up in them bunkers. Okay? So it's bad. All right? Pretty damn bad, but let's continue.
That was what the president has described as an imminent threat against the United States, its forces in the region, and of course, allies like Israel. Guys?
So Trey, the Wall Street Journal goes into detail about what the Israelis and our intelligence officers are doing to help get the I guess country ready for a takeover. And what they do is they try to bomb the headquarters. They bomb the headquarters, flushing out these leaders who've set up shop either in underpasses or in tents. And if they get blown out of those tents and underpasses, they were told to go to sports complexes. And when they gather, then they take them out. So it's a systematic way to take out their leadership. They're also, Mossad is evidently contacting leaders and saying, you're on a blacklist, you got a choice. Leave right now, join the people, or you're dead. And they're essentially responding to this by saying, I'll leave. Are you hearing some of this stuff, some stuff too?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a real-time intelligence apparatus working behind the scenes to identify where these officials are and to take them out. The strike that took out Khatib, was a joint intelligence effort, we are told, by the United States and Israel to go after not just the leadership of Iran, but also the support staff. And that is why you saw those strikes yesterday in Tehran going after the besieged forces. These are ground forces. They're individuals who are in the streets manning checkpoints to basically instill fear into the population so that they won't come to the streets. And that's exactly what the United States and Israel wants to avoid. They want to give the Iranian people the ability to peacefully demonstrate if they decide to do so. And that was what we saw earlier this year, a crackdown ordered by these top officials and these forces on the ground. And so this intelligence apparatus that's operating in real time behind the scenes is allowing them to identify who these individuals are, who ordered the crackdown against protesters, and then to take them out in airstrikes.
So I'm sorry.
Okay, so all of these three they're claiming are gone. Ali Larijani, Soleimani, and Khatib. Okay, they're saying all of those are gone. The most recent one is Khatib, and apparently the Minister of Intelligence also ran sleeper cells that were targeted not only just to Trump, but many other leaders as well. Okay, so again, let's be real. There are a lot of sleeper cells out there. Let's be real. We all know that. Okay. But they're saying globally. Okay. So let's continue. We're hopping around. We're not only staying on Fox, guys. Chill out. All right. We got a lot of things to look into. There's a lot to talk about. All right. So let's rock and roll. All right.
All right, Hansel, go ahead.
Thank you. So, Trey, Donald Trump has said this week that Iran is talking to our people and they want to make a deal. And Brian was talking about how the foreign minister over in Iran was texting with Wickoff. And Wickoff announced that. And he said, no, I didn't do that. Well, we obviously trust the Trump administration versus the leadership in Iran. What's the truth here?
Yeah, the Iranians also say they're not targeting civilians. And we just returned from an apartment where 2 elderly people were murdered in a cluster munition strike. They also say they're not targeting Gulf countries, and they're targeting Gulf countries each and every day. They've said that they've not tried to mine the strait and that they are not posing any threat to the region, but yet they are firing ballistic missiles toward the U.S. embassy in Iraq, for example, and launching drones and missiles through their proxies, the Shia militias there. And so oftentimes we hear these statements from the Iranian regime and they don't match the reality on the ground.
That is crazy.
Expect to have them deny internally that they are trying to reach a deal with the United States. But again, we have to think back before this war began. Before Operation Epic Fury started, Steve Witkoff, the U.S. Special Envoy, was speaking on a daily basis directly with Iran's foreign minister. So it's not surprising that they would be speaking now.
But Trey, this intelligence chief, Khatib, had a dual role. Obviously, he's the Minister of Intelligence, but he also reported part of the IRGC. And he was responsible for a lot of this hacking that's going on, and also the intelligence that was targeting the civilians. Is there anyone below him now that has that role?
The Iranians have prepared for this possibility that their entire leadership structure would be targeted in airstrikes. And so they have people that can step into these positions. But when we think about the bloody resumes of these individuals, it's substantial because the sleeper cells and the individuals who are operating around the world on behalf of Iran to commit acts of terrorism, they're ordered by people like Ismail Khatib.
That's right.
This official told me, and I want to just read you the quote that I obtained earlier from a senior Israeli official. This official said, this man had American blood on his hands. His network specifically targeted current and former U.S. officials, including President Donald Trump. And so, again, this gives you a sense of just how dangerous these individuals are. They do have the ability to pass off the baton to other officials in Tehran to continue these activities, and they will likely do so. But the Israeli officials have described it to Fox News as a hunting effort. They say they will hunt down these officials, and every time that they replace someone who's taken out in a strike with American and Israeli intelligence, that combination, they will go after them each and every day.
Yeah, if you can.
Interesting. We're gonna move on though. But again, you know, this is something. It's just very, yeah. You know, as soon as they go, oh, we're alive, we're doing good. You know what I mean? I feel like there's just going to be even more. You know, there's going to be even more chaos. There's going to be even more, reaction and whatnot. Now, Caroline just literally did an hour ago an impromptu press conference outside that I want to share with y'all. And of course, we are going to look at the Tulsi Gabbard situation, the congressional hearing here as well in just a little bit. But Caroline did a press conference. Yeah. So let's see what kind of stuff's coming out of her mouth today.
Why is it fair for the president to expect NATO allies to help now after the fact?
NATO allies benefit far more from the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz than the United States does. As you know, thanks to this president's energy agenda, we are a net exporter of oil. We have enough resources here at home for our people, and that's a good thing, thanks to President Trump.
But for how long, though? Remember that she said, and Trump even said, that is true. He said, we have plenty. We're fine. We'll be fine. If there's ever a situation where we've been cut off. But here's the thing. Gas is still going up. The gas prices are still going up, y'all. Things haven't changed. Okay. Here's the other thing, too. When you say that we have plenty, how much do we have? Do we have enough to last us, a year, a few years, a few weeks, a few months? How much? We have nothing to worry about. You sure about that? Because gas prices are still going up. And the infrastructure in Venezuela, the oil infrastructure in Venezuela, I heard still needs restructuring. That still needs work before they can start really pumping oil out of Venezuela. So what is going on, right? Yeah, Barbie. Yeah, Barbie mommy, right? It's going up quick. So yeah, what's going on? You can sit here all day long saying we have plenty, we're fine. How much do we got? So we know what we're looking at. This is the moment, I'm being real. This is the moment where Elon Musk, okay, is looking at this situation going, I'm about to get money. Trust me. Think about all the electric cars that those electric cars are starting to look real sexy now. Aren't they? Those who are sitting there going, F this green, the Green Deal or whatever the hell it's called, right? F the energy efficiency BS. I don't want to push the start car. I want one that could rev the engine up. You know what I mean? This is America, right? Right? He said no more electric cars. But now they're looking real sexy now, right? I mean, shoot, they are. To a certain extent. Or yeah, you can get you a Prius. You can get you a hybrid, right? But on some real stuff, doesn't it look a little tantalizing right now? All you got to do is plug it into a wall. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to pay for these crazy gas prices. You can just plug it into a mother-loving wall. As long as you're paying for your electricity bill, you Gucci. You know what I'm saying? Just saying that out loud, y'all. I'm not sitting here. Listen, I'm not, this show's not brought to you by Tesla. You know what I mean? Like, nah, you drive whatever you want to drive. You want to drive a gas guzzler? Go ahead, drive yourself a gas guzzler. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? That's on you. That's your prerogative. Okay. But at the same time, if these gas prices keep going up, people are going to be looking at those Elon mobiles real fast. Trust and believe.
The Strait opening is obviously good for America because it will stabilize the global oil industry. It will bring prices down again, but it greatly benefits Europe and our allies in NATO, and the president wants to see them do more. Look, I think you guys know this. One of the president's guiding principles is fairness, and he's long called out NATO for being what he believes sometimes an unfair alliance for the American taxpayer and our American military. You look at the billions of dollars we spend housing U.S. troops on the soil of our NATO ally countries. That's a benefit to them because it serves as a deterrent from our adversaries around the world. If you look at our unfair trade deals with many of our NATO allies, the president and his trade team have obviously worked to rectify those new trade deals with the UK, with the EU. The president wants all of our alliances to be fair for the American people, for the American taxpayer, and I think he's right to call on them to step up and do more in this time.
Follow-up. I'll ask one other question and leave that to others, which is very simply, can the president declare this war effort a success if the U.S. does not retrieve Iran's nuclear fuel?
Look, that's something the president has refused to comment on. It's an option on the table for him, but I'm not going to comment on it or take it off the table. We've defined the objectives of Operation Epic Fury very clearly, which is, of course, to wipe out Iran's ballistic missile arsenal, which we have been very successful in doing. We've achieved dominance over the skies of Iran, to annihilate their navy, which we have done. According to CENTCOM this morning, I received the updated numbers. More than 120 naval vessels are at the bottom of the sea because of our United States Armed Forces. That's a great thing for the American people. That's a great thing for our allies in the region. And of course, to ensure that, yes, Iran cannot permanently cannot possess a nuclear weapon is something this president has long said for decades. But I'm not going to forecast or remove any future options off the table.
Still have the ability to produce a nuclear weapon or no?
Look, again, we're in a place right now where we're ensuring that Iran can no longer threaten the United States of America, and the United States military is doing a tremendous job at achieving these objectives.
Caroline, is Tulsi Gabbard's job in jeopardy right now, given the Joe Penn stuff?
Come on.
Not to my knowledge. I haven't heard the president say that, nor have I heard him say that. So obviously that's a question for him, but I haven't heard him to say that at all.
Can you give us an update on what you're hearing from the Chinese about when this trip might be rescheduled?
We're working with them. They have agreed to postpone the trip. I think they understand the president's rationale for doing so. But again, we're working on those dates. The president has some things here at home in May that he has to attend to, and I'm sure President Xi is a very busy man as well. So we'll get the dates on the books as soon as we can, and we'll keep all.
Interesting. You hear that? Hold on. We're gonna.
All of you posted.
No, hold on. I'm rolling that part back because I think that China does not want anything to do with America right now, and so the date is being pushed back. But I think that they're trying to dodge. I think China's trying to dodge the meeting with Trump. Hold on.
But I haven't heard him to say that at all.
And can you give us an update on what you're hearing from the Chinese about when this trip might be rescheduled?
We're working with them. They have agreed to postpone the trip. I think they understand the president's rationale for doing so. But again, we're working on those dates. The president has some things here at home in May that he has to attend to, and I'm sure President Xi is a very busy man as well. So we'll get the dates on the books as soon as we can, and we'll keep all of you posted.
Okay, so in other words, AKA, things that are going on in the Strait of Hormuz right now is not helping the situation, right? And obviously that's actually digging into China's pockets as well. That's a big problem. Okay. So I don't think that China is going to be they're not going to rush to have a meeting with Trump right now, given the fact that the Strait of Hormuz is a huge problem. Yes, they've opened up the Strait of Hormuz, but it's only for their allies. I want to make that abundantly clear. They've only opened the Strait of Hormuz for Iran's allies. That includes China. Russia, and others, right? So again, for them to sit there and maybe have a meeting with Trump, they may not want to do that solely because it may look bad to Iran. Having that meeting with Trump, that might get Iran angry, and Iran might squeeze them off, being like, yo, you can't come through the Strait of Hormuz anymore. You can't come through anymore. You're having a meeting with our enemy. That's not an ally. That's our enemy. You see what I'm saying? So I see something very interesting here. Okay. But at the same time, China did agree to postpone. But there's allegedly speculation that China is totally fine to postpone for kind of like TBD, to be determined, because of the stuff that's going on with the Strait of Hormuz, right?
Caroline, given that the allies seem to have rebuffed the president's request for help, and now he says he no longer needs their help, what is the plan to reopen the Strait of Hormuz quickly?
The president is going to continue to talk to our allies, both in Europe and also in the Gulf and Arab region. The United States military has a lot of capabilities, as you have seen play out over the last 18 days. And they still do have tricks up their sleeve. I won't broadcast them for the media, but rest assured there is a plan. They're working on it. We have seen some progress with respect to that. But of course, the president, again, continues to call on our allies to step up and do more. Nancy.
Caroline, a couple of questions on Joe Kent. The White House was warned last year when the president nominated Kent that he had a history of embracing conspiracy theories, that he had some ties to white nationalists. Given that, why did the president nominate him to the position in the first place?
The president spoke on this a little bit yesterday in the Oval Office. He said he always thought Joe Kent was a good guy. Obviously has a commendable military record and experience. However, he was not someone who was involved in the presidential daily brief, part of the president's intelligence briefings over the last several months. Have not seen him here at the White House for quite some time. And the president feels it's deeply disappointing that after the president gave him an opportunity in this administration to serve the American people, that he would resign it with a letter filled with falsehoods, accusing the president of the United States by being controlled by a foreign country. That's both insulting and laughable all at the same time. The president is the leader of the most powerful country and military in the world. Nobody tells him what to do. He makes decisions based on what's in the best interest of this country.
Sorry, the president said yesterday that he always thought Kent was weak on security. Why would he name someone to run the counterterrorism center who he thought was weak on security?
Again, I just told you, the president gave Joe Kent a chance. He thought he was a good guy with good military experience. And unfortunately, he proved he was not up for the job. And we don't want somebody leading the counterterrorism task force who cannot agree that the #1 state sponsor of terror in this world did not pose a threat to the United States. That's what another falsehood he said in his letter of resignation, which is just unequivocally false. It's backed by intelligence. It's backed by the fact that Iran was building ballistic missiles at a rapid rate to build a shield of immunity so they could build a nuclear bomb. And it's backed by the fact that the president of the United States made the decision to attack Iran before they could attack American troops and our assets and bases in the region. And that was, of course, a good decision, not just for the United States, but for the rest of the world. It should be commended. It should not be degraded in the form of a resignation letter that's riddled with lies. Thank you.
She said what she said. Okay. All right, then. You know what I mean? But at the same time, let me show you what I'm talking about. This is according to, where is it at? This is according to Associated Press, just so you guys can see what's going on. About 90 ships across the Strait of Hormuz, okay, as Iran exports millions of barrels of oil despite the war. Again, a lot of people are like, wait a second, 90 ships? The hell? That's a whole, wait. So it's open, right? Everything's Gucci, right? No, that it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. These are all allies, okay? These are all allies of Iran, okay? About 90 ships, including oil tankers, have crossed the Strait of Hormuz since the outset of the war with Iran, and it's still exporting millions of barrels of oil at a time when the waterway has been effectively closed, according to maritime and trade data platforms. Many of the vessels that pass through the strait were so-called, dark transits, evading Western government sanctions and oversight that likely have ties to Iran, maritime data firm Lloyd's List Intelligence said. More recently, vessels with ties to India and Pakistan have also successfully crossed the Strait of Hormuz as governments stepped up negotiations. Now, I want to also just let you guys know, crude prices have spiked above $100 a barrel. Now, apparently they're at $108 a barrel right now. Okay, so now you do have shipping going through the Strait of Hormuz, but they have some sort of agreement. They're doing this for their allies because they got to keep the world economy, the world market still moving. Okay, so again, 90 ships have crossed the Strait of Hormuz, but it's all through the, through an agreement, okay, with Iran. It's not going to be America. You know what I mean? It's definitely not going to be any of our allies going through the Strait of Hormuz, right? Hail to the no. All of Iran's allies, almost definitely, because they got to keep the money moving. You know, these bombs don't pay themselves, right? So again, that's what's going on right now as we speak. So that's still going on now. Let's take a look at this too. This is from ABC News. This is talking about the deep pounding that they're doing right now in these bunkers. They bunker busting right now, okay?
This is what you need to know now. Iran's deadly retaliation across the region, hours after the regime's security chief was killed in an Israeli strike. President Trump's top U.S. counterterrorism official quitting, saying Israel pushed the U.S. into war.
I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security.
TSA meltdown. A major East Coast.
You know what drives me crazy is what if he was just straight up fire, great at his job, but he saw something that he did not like, and therefore he stepped down. He said, I'm out. I can't do this. I don't agree with this. I'm gone, right? And Trump is still sitting here saying, like, he was weak. He was very weak on security, just very weak. Great guy, very nice guy, to be honest, but very weak on his job. Then why did you keep him in his mother-loving job if he was weak, baby? You see what I'm saying? Think about that for a second, y'all. Very weak. But then he out here saying, you know what I mean? He probably was fire at his job. And at this moment, he said, I see a lie. Right? I see a straight up lie and I'm done. You feel me? Come on now. Now he's weak. Come on. Just, stop the cap, Enrico. Okay, Enrico. Okay? Cállate, cabrón.
Airport closing more checkpoints. Some small airports may be forced to close entirely. Britain's most senior policeman now in the US, seeking full access to the Epstein files.
We're going to need the unredacted evidence.
And Arizona suing prediction market giant Kalshi just as March Madness kicks off. We have much more. Mark, let's get right to the big story. The US has used some of the most powerful bombs in its arsenal against Iranian missile sites along the Strait of Hormuz. 5,000-pound bunker-busting bombs were dropped to combat Iran's ability to block the channel, which is vital for global oil shipments.
Hold on. Bunker busting to what?
Missile sites along the Strait of Hormuz. 5,000-pound bunker-busting bombs were dropped to combat Iran's ability to block the channel, which is vital for global oil shipments. Regular gas prices are now up 91 cents since the war began. The national average is
91 cents.
Is now approaching $4 a gallon.
Damn.
The war is increasingly unpopular with the president's supporters. He is now facing new political pressure with the resignation of a key member of his national security team who says Israel pushed the US into the war. Rachel is at the White House.
James, the Trump administration's top counterterrorism official has officially resigned over President Trump's war with Iran. In his resignation letter, he says that Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. Joe Kent, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, writing, I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. It is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Now, President Trump, who has long supported Kent's political career, despite Kent's controversies, including his past association with anti-Semites, brushed off the resignation, saying that he always thought he was a nice guy, that he also thought that he was weak on security, saying that he did not know him very well. The top Democrat on the
I'm sorry, it just doesn't make sense to me. Now, I get it. You're not going to get to know everybody. Okay? Like, I get it. You're not going to know everybody that you hire, like, intimately. And I don't mean intimate like that. Okay, guys. All right. I ain't talking intimate like Epstein Island. All right. But what I'm trying to say is, like, of course, you may not know everybody like to a T, but this is somebody who you hired. You agreed to have on board with you. You thought he did a great job. If he wasn't doing a great job, I think he would have been fired and terminated from his job a long time ago. So it just seems weird that he would be, weak on security, weak on X, Y, and Z. I just don't think he would have gotten the job. You see what I'm saying? Or he would have been terminated a long time ago if he wasn't really stern and tough on security. So again, it's like, stop, right? And you got the triple Bs going on, the bunker busting bombs that are being dropped to stop the deployment of mines in the Strait of Hormuz, which I'm still wondering, I'm still trying to understand that, like, why would they do that? I guess just to maybe by eliminating those bunkers, it will stop them from going in there and actually planting mines in the Strait of Hormuz. That's true as well, but I just think it's interesting, right?
Senate Intelligence Committee Mark Warner saying that Joe Kent's record is deeply troubling, but adding on this point that he is right. There was no credible evidence of an imminent threat from Iran.
Some Republicans.
Whoa. Say that again.
Mark Warner saying that Joe Kent's record is deeply troubling, but adding on this point that he is right. There was no credible evidence of an imminent threat from Iran.
Some Republicans have been quick to call out Kent's comments about Israel as anti-Semitic. The war, meanwhile, shows no sign of slowing down, with the Iranian regime saying they'll avenge the death of Ali Larijani, their security chief, killed by Israel Tuesday. It was a very active morning here in northern Iraq. Multiple drones were fired from militia loyal to Tehran. That's after the U.S. embassy in Baghdad came under renewed attack last night. U.S. forces there were forced to use a huge Gatling gun to fire at drones in the sky. And in Israel, a couple in their 70s were killed after shrapnel from Iranian cluster bombs hit their apartment. 20 other locations were damaged from falling shrapnel, and 6 people were injured. Israel's second front against Hezbollah in Lebanon is intensifying too. This apartment building was flattened earlier this morning. Israel had warned residents to evacuate about an hour before bringing it down. The government says more than 900 people have now been killed in Lebanon. Joe Kent's resignation may feature today on Capitol Hill as the Senate Intelligence Committee holds its annual worldwide threats hearing. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, is set to testify on Iran and the reasoning behind going to war. Jay O'Brien has the details.
James, this will kick off 2 days of marathon hearings on threats across the globe. Senior intelligence officials briefing Senate lawmakers, and chief among them is Tulsi Gabbard, the country's top intelligence official, who is likely to face tough questions. Also in that room, the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. Expect tough questions on the bombing of that girls' school, the intelligence that led up to it, and if the U.S. is truly to blame. Also, the CIA director and the FBI director expected to brief senators, too, and the latter likely to get questions on the possibility for Iranian-inspired attacks here on the homeland, James.
The TSA has issued a new warning that the partial government shutdown could soon force some small airports to close because of staffing shortages.
So again, that's obviously what's going on this side of the lake. Okay. But yeah, there's going to be some serious airports closing if we keep going with this very this half government shutdown that's kind of going on, this partial government shutdown that's going on? Because there's a lot of TSA agents that are calling in. They're just basically calling in because they're like, we can't live like this. We got to go, I got to go DoorDash now. You know what I'm saying? So that is that's something that's really going on as well. But hold on, we got to look. Yeah, let's take a look at this as well. That music, like, I don't know why, but that stuff gives me so much anxiety. Like, it's just so like, why is this so intense? Jesus.
Overnight, Iran launching new strikes on Israel. These apparent cluster warheads seen falling over Tel Aviv. Israeli officials say an elderly couple in this building were killed by shrapnel from a missile interception. In Iraq, flames also rising after the U.S. embassy compound in Baghdad again came under attack. Hours after an earlier wave of drones, air defense here seen shooting one down. Meanwhile, the U.S. taking new action in the Strait of Hormuz, dropping multiple 5,000-pound so-called bunker buster bombs on hardened Iranian missile sites along the strait that could be used to target ships. But the waterway remains virtually shut down, choking off global oil shipments. U.S. allies in Europe are refusing President Trump's request for military help reopening the strait, saying this is not their war.
I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake.
Trump now insisting the U.S. doesn't need Europe's help.
Well, we don't need too much help, and we don't need any help, actually.
In Tehran, the regime shaken after Israeli strikes killed 2 of its top surviving leadership. Iran now confirming the death of National Security Chief Ali Larijani, widely seen as one of the regime's de facto leaders. Also killed the commander of Iran's feared Basij militia. Both were key in the violent crackdown on Iranian protesters in January that killed thousands.
I would argue the death of Ali Larijani is just as significant for Iran as the death of Ali Khamenei, the former supreme leader. This alone won't make it collapse, but I don't think that Iran can continue to lose leaders at this level for weeks on end. Their bench is growing shorter by the day.
Israel now also launching drone attacks on dozens of security checkpoints in Tehran, seeking to further weaken the regime inside the country. But at home, the Trump administration is facing new political pressure. Top counterterrorism official Joe Kent resigning in protest of the war, claiming Iran posed no imminent threat to the U.S. Writing, "It's clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby." Kent accusing Israeli officials of a misinformation campaign. Critics accusing Kent of anti-Semitism. His now former boss, National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard, issuing a statement backing the president. Kent, a retired Green Beret, has made headlines before as an election denier and for defending the January 6th riot. President Trump, who chose Kent for the counterterrorism post, now saying this about him.
I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well.
Can we talk about this really quick? I do think that it's very interesting that people are starting to point out, like, let me play this part one more time, because now the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, wow, they're really trying to, they're going there. They're going there. Hear me out. Just hear this little piece out really quick.
Accusing Israeli officials of a misinformation campaign. Critics accusing Kent of anti-Semitism. His now former boss, National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard, issuing a statement backing the president. Kent, a retired Green Beret, has made headlines before as an election denier and for defending.
Okay, so the part that I'm trying to point out is him saying, what we're doing for Israel is wrong. This is an Israel war. This is not our war. This is we were not in imminent danger with Iran or anything of that sort, right? And people are quick to sit there and say that he's an anti-Semite now, right? Now they obviously threw in the other conversation about him having a conversation with some sort of extreme white supremacist interviewer or something like that apparently stopped him on the street or something like that, and he had an interview with that guy randomly on the street. Now, I don't know how much of that is true or not, but don't you think it's very interesting that as soon as he says something, they are now pulling things out of the sky to basically say that this guy's we shouldn't be listening to him because he's an anti-Semite. And, he sat down and had a conversation with this far right individual. Don't you think that's interesting? Am I the only one who sees that? Like, whoa, that's really interesting, right? Here's the problem. This is the reason why I'm trying to point this out. They are now saying that after he had the mother-loving job. Isn't that odd, don't you think? So if he was such a bad guy, if he was such a hardcore, far-right, white supremacist, racist piece of trash, why did he have the job in the first doggone place? Think about that for a second. He shouldn't have that job. Any person who's an anti-Semite or a racist or has hardcore far-right racist ideology should not have the job in the first place. But as soon as he puts out there that Iran was not an imminent threat and this war is a bold-faced lie and we're only doing this for Israel, now he's an anti-Semite. Now he's a racist. Now he's a white supremacist. Don't you think that that's interesting? Don't you find that a little odd? I didn't know him. He was a really nice guy, but weak in his security. Just weak. Huh? You see what's going on here? Because let me just keep it a bean. Let's just keep it a mother-loving bean for like just a hot minute, okay? Sorry, I don't want to have to make it linger, but I'm going to stay on this for a second, okay? Just for a hot minute. If it was Dr. Evil himself, if this was Stephen Miller who put out a statement basically saying, I must resign because this war is a lie. $1 billion, you know what I mean? If he said this, and then suddenly they would do the same thing. They'd be like, oh, he's a white supremacist. He's a this, that, and the third. He's a racist. He's a piece of trash. He's this, that, and the third. Trump would probably be like, nice guy, but we didn't agree on a lot of things. We were friends on certain things. He didn't see my vision on how this whole thing should be going. You know what I mean? Yeah, I hardly knew the guy. Right? Stephen Miller, he was a really nice guy, but I barely even knew the guy. Just very weak in leadership. Very weak. Right? Don't you find that a little odd? Don't you find that a little odd? So now, like, I don't know this guy. I don't know who he is. I'm not trying to defend his ass. Not at all. I'm just trying to point out what they're saying right now. So if any person who's sitting there saying that, hey, they don't agree on this war going on with for Israel, what, suddenly they're all anti-Semites? So you're saying a good portion of the country are anti-Semites because they don't agree with this war that's going on in Iran? Or he's just one because he's the one who's exposing some truth. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to smear his name when he, I don't know him. Like I said, I don't know his policies. I don't know anything about this this interview that he had with some hardcore, far right content creator. I don't know anything about that, right? But one thing is for sure, he resigned from his position. This is somebody who's been deployed 11 times. He has served our country as well. His wife lost her life to ISIS. So he'd have more and more reason to be like, let's go over there. Hoorah, let the blood spill in the streets of Iran. He'd be okay with that. But he's not okay with it right now. Why? Because he found out something was true, or he found out that what they were giving us was a lie. How is that anti-Semitism? Someone explain that to me. So that's what I'm saying. As soon as he put that out, that's exactly what people are saying out here. Oh, yeah, he's known for his extreme right wing, so on and so forth. Okay, all right. But there's something here that he saw that he wasn't okay with, and he's stepping away from it. And I don't think it's some sort of political bias. He really would resign because of, no, I don't think he would. I really don't think he would resign over the fact that this is Israel. Don't think he would. But I think he would resign if he's sitting there going like, we are about to walk into a bloodbath. And I can't, in my good heart, stand behind and watch our soldiers fall. I don't see anything wrong with that. But like I said, this is going to be the first, I think, of many other ones that are going to step down, that are going to walk away. And they're not going to be somebody who was interviewed by some far right podcaster or anything of that sort. I really think it's going to be people who are just hardcore MAGA supporters that are going to be like, we out. We can't do this. We can't support this. But don't you find that a little odd? I find it odd. I do find that odd. Okay? But let's continue on. Even Tulsi Gabbard, I already know. Tulsi Gabbard is far up in, Trump's booty hole that I don't even think she knows. I don't think she even knows what's going on, to be honest. But that's just my personal opinion, okay? But let's continue. Again, I just think it's very interesting that they would go out of their way to be like, oh, by the way, he anti-Semite too, by the way. The importance of that now is he shouldn't have had the job in the first place if he was that. So why would he have that job? You see what I'm saying? It's just so stupid.
Campaign. Critics accusing Kent of anti-Semitism. His now former boss, National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard, issuing a statement backing the president. Kent, a retired Green Beret, has made headlines before as an election denier and for defending the January 6th riot. President Trump, who chose Kent for the counterterrorism post, now saying this about him.
I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well.
Later today, Tulsi Gabbard, who previously was a passionate opponent of U.S. wars in the Middle East, is due to testify before a Senate committee. She's likely to face tough questions on the resignation of Joe Kent and also about this war more broadly.
Hold on. Because we should go over to, there is a piece of her opening statement that I think we all should check out. So let's take a look at Tulsi Gabbard's. Actually, let's look at this first before we go into her opening statement. Let's take a look at this.
Will be on Capitol Hill today. Top intelligence official Tulsi Gabbard is set to testify. She's expected to face questions about Iran and the reasoning behind going to war. Jay O'Brien is on Capitol Hill with the latest. Good morning, Jay.
Michael, good morning. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, as well as the directors of the FBI and the CIA and other top intelligence officials will be up here on Capitol Hill for the first of 2 days of marathon worldwide threats hearings. Gabbard expected to be grilled on the resignation of Joe Kent, as well as her own past opposition to conflict in Iran, including posts like one from 2020 where she said simply, quote, no war with Iran. Also inside that room will be the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, the Pentagon's top intelligence arm. Expect Democrats on the Senate Intelligence Committee to ask pressing questions about the bombing of that girls' school in Minab, Iran, and what, if any, culpability the U.S. has and what, if any, role U.S. intelligence may have played. I'm also told senators have pressing questions on the possibility for Iranian reprisals on the U.S. and the possibility of cyber attacks. Expect FBI Director Kash Patel and others to get questions on that. And right down the hall will be Senator Markwayne Mullin, President Trump's choice to replace Kristi Noem as the Secretary of Homeland Security. He'll be in a separate confirmation hearing fielding questions from his Senate colleagues. He's vying to take the reins of an agency that's been without federal funding for 33 days now.
Yeah, and that's actually going on as well. Mullin's being in his hearing as well. But I do want us to check out this, her opening statements. Tulsi Gabbard in her opening statements. Let's take a look at this.
Chairman Cotton, Vice Chair Warner, members of the committee, good morning. I'm here today to present the 2026 Annual Threat Assessment, joined by the directors of the CIA, FBI, DIA, and NSA. Before I continue, on behalf of the intelligence community, I want to extend our thanks to General Hartman for his 37 years of service in uniform and closing out his 37 years with tremendous leadership of the NSA. This briefing is being provided in accordance with ODNI statutory responsibility. I'd like to remind those who are watching what I am briefing here today conveys the intelligence community's assessment of the threats facing U.S. citizens, our homeland, and our interests, not my personal views or opinions. In this assessment, we're following the structure of priorities that were laid out in the President's national security strategy, starting with threats to our homeland and then shifting to global risks. The defense of our homeland is of the utmost importance to the American people, and efforts by this administration have shown over the last year the results of bolstering homeland defense in the security of the American people. For example, the strict enforcement of U.S. policies at the U.S.-Mexico border and regionally have served as a deterrent, drastically reducing illegal immigration. Based on Customs and Border Patrol data, January 2026's monthly encounters are down 83.8% compared to January 2025. Encounters declined 79% compared to 2024. The drivers of migration are likely to continue. Potential worsening instability in countries like Cuba and Haiti risk triggering migration surges, and smugglers who have long operated as transnational criminal organizations continue to view chaos as an opportunity for profit and will continue to look to profit from illegal immigration flows. These transnational criminal organizations continue to pose a daily and direct threat to the health and safety of millions of U.S. citizens, primarily and directly by producing and trafficking in illegal drugs. Under President Trump's leadership, fentanyl overdose deaths have seen a 30% decrease from September 2024 to September 2025. President Trump's aggressive efforts to more directly and actively target these transnational criminal organizations and reduce the inflow of fentanyl precursors has already had a significant impact, which is likely to continue. We've seen fentanyl potency also decrease, likely due to disruptions to the production supply chain. U.S. efforts to work with China and India to halt the flow of fentanyl precursor chemicals to North America are demonstrating some improvement, but there is more work to be done, as sadly, there are still tens of thousands of fentanyl-related deaths in America every year. Mexico-based TCOs like the Sinaloa cartel and Jalisco New Generation cartel dominate the production and smuggling of fentanyl, heroin, meth, and cocaine into the United States. Colombia-based DCOs and illegal armed groups like the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia and the National Liberation Army are responsible for producing and trafficking large volumes of cocaine to the U.S. and European markets, with now some indicators of attempts to expand their market to the Asia-Pacific region. Colombia remains the world's largest producer of cocaine, and Colombian criminal groups have expanded their trafficking relationships with neighboring Ecuadorian and Brazilian gangs. As you know, MS-13 is well established in cells within the United States and uses violence to intimidate the Salvadoran diaspora, engaging in murder, extortion, retail drug trafficking, firearms offenses, and prostitution, fueling increased violence and instability. These and other TCOs continue to present a very tangible and individualized risk of violent crime to everyday Americans and contribute to regional instability. As the president increases his focus on counter-drug and counter-cartel pressures, they are likely to seek ways to try to adapt their operations, including shifting production locations and trafficking routes and methods. The United States continues to face a complex and evolving threat landscape with a geographically diverse set of Islamist terrorist actors seeking to propagate their ideology globally and harm Americans, even as Al-Qaeda and ISIS remain weaker today than they were at their respective peaks. The spread of Islamist ideology, in some cases led by individuals and organizations associated with the Muslim Brotherhood, poses a fundamental threat to freedom and the foundational principles that underpin Western civilization. Islamist groups and individuals use this ideology for recruiting and financial support for terrorist groups and individuals around the world, and to advance their political objectives of establishing an Islamist caliphate which governs based on Sharia. There are increasing examples of this in various European countries, and President Trump's designation of certain Muslim Brotherhood chapters as foreign terrorist organizations is a mechanism to secure Americans against this threat. In response to setbacks to their capabilities of conducting large-scale complex attacks, Islamist terrorist groups have shifted toward focusing on executing information operations to spread propaganda and inspire or enable individuals located in or with access to the West. U.S. counterterrorism efforts, primarily in Iraq, Somalia, Yemen, and Syria in 2025, were instrumental in removing key terrorist leaders and operatives, degrading the ability of al-Qaeda and ISIS to quickly reconstitute its leadership and plan large-scale attacks against the homeland and U.S. interests abroad. Strict U.S. border enforcement measures and increased deportations of individuals with suspected links to Islamist terrorists have reduced access to the homeland and removed some potential sources of future terrorist attacks. Since January, U.S. officials have only had a handful of encounters at our borders with individuals associated with terrorist groups. This is a positive trend. However, our interagency coordinated efforts to continue to identify, locate, and remove known or suspected terrorists who may already be in the United States continues with vigilance. In 2025, there were at least 3 Islamist terrorist attacks in the United States. Law enforcement disrupted at least 15 U.S.-based Islamist terrorist plotters. Roughly half of last year's disrupted plotters had some online contact with Islamist terrorists inspired by Islamist foreign terrorist organizations abroad. For example, in the recent attempt to attack a synagogue in Michigan, the shooter had familial ties to a Hezbollah leader. Al-Qaeda and ISIS pose the biggest threat to U.S. interests overseas in parts of Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia, where these groups operate. In the Middle East, AQAP in Yemen, ISIS-K in South Asia, and ISIS in Syria are among the most likely groups conducting external plotting. ISIS in Syria is likely seeking to rebuild its ranks, expand support networks, and solicit funds by re-engaging with and recruiting from the likely hundreds of ISIS detainees and thousands of ISIS-linked women and children who were either released or escaped from prisons and displaced person camps that were previously run by the Syrian Democratic Forces in northeast Syria. Meanwhile, state actors present a risk broader in scope by seeking new capabilities in kinetic and cyber warfare. The United States' secure nuclear deterrent continues to ensure safety in the homeland against strategic threats. However, the intelligence community assesses that Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and Pakistan have been researching and developing an array of novel, advanced, or traditional missile delivery systems with nuclear and conventional payloads that put our homeland within range. The IC assesses that threats to the homeland will expand collectively to more than 16,000 missiles by 2035, from the current assessed figure of more than 3,000 missiles. The IC assesses that China and Russia are developing advanced delivery systems meant to be capable of penetrating or bypassing U.S. missile defenses. North Korea's ICBMs can already reach U.S. soil, and the IC assesses that it is committed to expanding its nuclear arsenal.
Interesting.
Pakistan's long-range ballistic missile development potentially could include ICBMs with a range capable of striking the homeland. The IC assesses that Iran has previously demonstrated space launch and other technology it could use to begin to develop a militarily viable ICBM before 2035, should Tehran attempt to pursue that capability. However, these assessments will clearly be updated as the full impact of Operation Epic Fury's devastating strikes on Iran's missile production facilities, stockpiles, and launch capabilities is determined. These nations collectively will likely seek to understand U.S. plans for advanced missile defense for the homeland, probably for the purpose of shaping their own missile development programs and assessing U.S. intentions regarding deterrence. Shifting to the cyber domain, the IC assesses that China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and non-state ransomware groups will continue to seek to compromise U.S. government and private sector networks, as well as critical infrastructure, to collect intelligence, create options for future disruption, and for financial gain. The IC assesses that China and Russia present the most persistent and active threats and are continuing their R&D efforts. North Korea's cyber program is sophisticated and agile. In 2025 alone, North Korea's cryptocurrency heist probably stole $2 billion, which the IC assesses is helping to fund the regime and include further development of its strategic weapons programs. Financially or ideologically motivated non-state actors are becoming more bold, with ransomware groups shifting to faster, high-volume attacks that are harder to identify and mitigate. Innovation in the field of artificial intelligence will likely accelerate these threats in the cyber domain. The IC assesses that it will increasingly shape cyber operations, with both cyber operators and defenders using these tools to improve their speed and effectiveness. For example, in August of 2025, cyber actors used an AI tool to conduct a data extortion operation against international government, healthcare, and public health emergency service sectors, as well as religious institutions. Moving to the Arctic, the IC assesses that Russia, and to a lesser extent China, aim to strengthen their presence in the region through increased maritime trade, natural resource extraction, and military activity. Russia, which has the longest coastline in the Arctic, has long sought recognition of its polar great power status and is deploying more military forces and building new permanent infrastructure. China, though not an Arctic country, is engaged in more limited efforts in the region to advance its own strategic and economic interests. The IC assesses that China is the most capable competitor in the field of artificial intelligence. The IC assesses that AI capabilities are rapidly advancing and changing the threat landscape, as this is a defining technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning comprehension, problem solving, creativity, and autonomy. It will be critical to ensure that humans remain in control of how AI is used and of the machines that may threaten to autonomously violate the interests of the American people across all domains. AI adoption at scale across the spectrum of usage poses serious risks. AI has the potential to aid in weapons and systems design and has been used in recent conflicts to influence targeting and streamline decision-making, underscoring the risk and likely threats that could manifest on the battlefield. Early developers in quantum computers will give countries an extraordinary technological advantage over others to quickly process national security information and break current encryption methodology used to protect sensitive finance, healthcare, and government information. The global security landscape is volatile and complex, with armed conflict growing more common and posing potential threats against U.S. interests. Strategic competition and regional and smaller powers are becoming more willing to use force to pursue their interests, heightening the risk of conflict. The IC assesses the space domain is becoming increasingly contested, with China and Russia developing counter-space capabilities to challenge U.S. space efforts. The threat of nuclear proliferation and advancing chemical and biological warfare capabilities continues to grow. I'll turn now to our neighborhood in the Western Hemisphere, where flagging economies, high crime rates, pervasive organized crime, migration flows, corruption, narcotics trafficking, all of these present a spectrum of risks to U.S. interests, and where strategic competitors seek to gain greater influence in the region. The IC assesses that Latin America and the Caribbean almost certainly will see hotspots of volatility in the coming year. Since Maduro's arrest, the IC assesses a shift in Venezuela's leadership towards cooperating with the U.S. to open its economy, to develop the country's oil and gas extraction capability, and we've seen their movement in releasing political prisoners. The U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement review in 2026 will likely increase uncertainty in many Latin American countries, especially those that rely on Mexico as an export destination for intermediate goods for manufacture and onward export to the U.S. China, Russia, and Iran are likely seeking to sustain economic, political, and military engagement with Latin America. The IC assesses that China's demand for raw materials is likely to continue to drive its economic outreach, while Russia likely wants to expand its current security and diplomatic ties with Cuba and Nicaragua. The IC assesses that China aims to elevate its own political, economic, military, and technological power to increase its own regional positioning, global influence, to fend off threats to their interests. While there are challenging areas where interests diverge, President Trump's diplomatic engagements with President Xi to work towards U.S. interests have enabled progress where those interests align. The IC assesses that China continues to rapidly modernize its military forces across all domains in pursuit of its goal to achieve world-class status by mid-century. This includes building a force with the aim of being capable of deterring U.S. and allied forces in the region, and to achieve their stated objective of developing the ability to seize Taiwan by force if necessary. However, the IC assesses that China likely prefers to set the conditions for an eventual peaceful reunification with Taiwan short of conflict. The IC assesses that an increasingly confident North Korean regime remains a source of concern regionally and globally. Its weapons of mass destruction, its conventional military capabilities, illicit cyber activities, and demonstrated willingness to use asymmetric capabilities poses a threat to U.S. and its allies,
I'm speeding.
South Korea and Japan.
I'm speeding this up,
North
guys.
Korea's partnership with Russia is growing.
Holy
In
crap.
2025, Kim took steps to improve ties with China, still North Korea's most important trading partner and economic benefactor. The IC assesses that North Korea's support for Russia in the war against Ukraine has increased North Korea's capabilities as their forces have gained combat experience in 21st century warfare, along with equipment. In 2024, North Korea deployed more than 11,000 troops to Russia to support combat operations in Kursk.
Much
Pyongyang
better.
continues to develop and expand its strategic weapons programs, including missiles that can evade U.S. and regional missile defenses. It is continuing to work to increase its nuclear warhead stockpile and maintains biological and chemical weapons capabilities. Russia retains the capability to selectively challenge U.S. interests globally by military and non-military means. The IC assesses that the most dangerous threat posed by Russia to the U.S. is the potential of an escalatory spiral in an ongoing conflict such as Ukraine, or a new conflict that led to direct hostilities, including the potential deployment of nuclear weapons. The IC assesses that Putin continues to invest in Russia's defense industrial base, as well as novel capabilities that may pose a greater threat to the U.S. homeland and forces abroad than conventional weapons. Russia has advanced systems, hypersonic missiles, and undersea capabilities designed to negate U.S. military advantage. Moscow also relies on other tools to exert pressure, using gray zone tactics to further its goals and compete below the level of armed conflict. Russia is also building an extensive counterspace capabilities to contest U.S. space dominance. Its development of a nuclear counterspace weapon poses the greatest single threat to the world's space architecture. During the past year, the IC assesses that Russia has maintained the upper hand in the war against Ukraine. U.S.-led negotiations between Moscow and Kiev are ongoing. Until such an agreement is met, Moscow is likely to continue fighting a slow war of attrition until they view their objectives have been achieved. In the Middle East, conflict and instability will shape security, political, and economic dynamics in a variety of ways. The IC assesses that Operation Epic Fury is advancing fundamental change in the region that began with Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, and continued with the 12-day war last year, resulting in weakening Iran and its proxies. The IC assesses the regime in Iran appears to be intact but largely degraded due to attacks on its leadership and military capabilities. Its conventional military power projection capabilities have largely been destroyed, leaving limited options. Iran's strategic position has been significantly degraded. The U.S.-led maximum pressure campaign and snapback of European sanctions added additional pressure to an already bleak Iranian economy, resulting in mass protests earlier this year that Tehran suppressed by killing thousands of protesters. Even if the regime remains intact, the IC assesses that internal tensions are likely to increase as Iran's economy worsens. Even so, Iran and its proxies continue to attack U.S. and allied interests in the Middle East. The IC assesses that if a hostile regime survives, it will likely seek to begin a years-long effort to rebuild its military, missiles, and UAV forces. Prior to Operation Epic Fury, the IC assesses Iran was trying to recover from the severe damage to its nuclear infrastructure sustained during the 12-day war and continued to refuse to comply with its nuclear obligations with the IAEA, refusing them access to key facilities. The IC assesses that China, Russia, and North Korea see the United States as a strategic competitor and potential adversary. Iran has long viewed the U.S. as an adversary and is engaged in active conflict with the U.S. as of today. These four countries, the IC assesses, are likely to continue their selective cooperation with each other, which could bolster their individual capabilities and threats to U.S. interests more broadly. However, currently these relationships are primarily bilateral on selective issues and depend on broader circumstances, divergent sovereign interests, and in some cases, concerns over directly confronting the United States. These factors, the ICSSs, are likely to constrain their relationships. Finally, conflicts on the continent of Africa are likely to persist through 2026 due to poor governance, economic demands, and external support. Tensions continue between Ethiopia and Eritrea, which could rapidly accelerate to conflict. Contentious national elections in Somalia could distract the federal government away from counterterrorism actions against al-Shabaab, which continues to conduct terror attacks while providing funding and propaganda support to other elements of al-Qaeda in Yemen. The civil war in Sudan continues even as external negotiations occur. ISIS in West Africa and the Sahel have increased the intensity of their attacks against local security forces, expanding their areas of operation and moving closer to cities with a U.S. presence. The ICS says that African governments will likely use their wealth in critical minerals to seek partnerships that deliver them meaningful benefit. Concurrent conflicts and crises across the continent will continue to put U.S. citizens at risk and cause further instability. In closing, as leaders of the intelligence community, we remain committed to providing the president and policymakers with timely, unbiased, relevant intelligence to inform decision-making and to ensure the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. Thank you.
Ay, ay, ay. Ay, 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 ay. That was a little, that was tough to listen to. Well, there was that. There was her opening statements right there. She talked for, it was a 22-minute video from beginning to end. And I had to speed it up. Have mercy. But, you know, for me, I'm like, okay, so she did tap in on the Iranian war thing, but it's like she didn't really tap in on it. Yes, there are threats everywhere. It's America. There are plenty of threats going on throughout the entire world against America because it's America. But yeah, that was her opening statement, guys. So she was reading that that was her opening statement. I'm sure there's going to be some highlights from the actual hearing here in just a little bit. So we'll be looking at that when we get to it. But that was her opening statement, guys. 22 minutes of just her talking about what the hell is going on. And then, you know, you got Cash Patel there too. But this is something I want to show you guys because I think this is very interesting. So you know that Mullins is in the middle of a hearing as well, like a confirmation hearing, talking about how he's taking over where Kristi Noem was, right? I think this is very interesting. So Senator Rand Paul, pulls up footage of Mullins apparently at another hearing in the past trying to start a fight inside the hearing. He pulls this up and he's like, are you sure? Are you sure you're like the best person to lead the DHS, ICE, the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol? And he pulls up this video to show this dude going nuclear. This is absolutely crazy.
But really, there's a pattern of this. Let's go ahead and roll the tape.
He said there's a pattern of this behavior. Look at this ish.
We can be good as second adult. We can finish it here. Okay, that's fine. Perfect. You want to do it now? I'd love to do it right now. Well, stand your butt up there. You stand up, bud. Oh, stop. Say it. No, sit down. No, you're a United States Senator. Sit down. Okay, sit down, please. All right. Can I respond? Hold it. If he got up too, would you have gone at it right there? I would have probably jumped over the dais at that point. You have to be called out on. It's not this guy continues to get away with this stuff, and it's just, you know, it's silly, it's stupid, but every now and then you get punched in the face. Well, go back to the 1800s and 1700s. They used to have canes and duels. They used to have duels. Yeah. Right. And there's a way that men used to settle their differences. I ignored him 4 times part of that. And people say, yes, you're supposed to ignore it. Well, you know, I'm not a very good Christian. I try to be a good Christian. And I know people say you're supposed to turn the other cheek. I prefer the David method. But we need to move from an almost. By the way, I'm not afraid of fighting. I will fight. Fighting? Oh, I'm not. Yeah, if I'm in a fight, I'm moving back. I'll do anything. I'm not about it. And I don't care where I fight. It's just
In hindsight, any regrets?
no, I really don't.
So no regrets. In fact, even after your anger had cooled, you were still bragging that if he'd only been brave enough to stand up, you'd have jumped over the dais and taught him a lesson, because that's how men should settle their differences. Do you think fighting as a resolution for political differences is a good example for the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol?
As you can notice over my shoulder here is my good friend Sean O'Brien.
Okay. Hold on. His good friend Sean O'Brien. Hold on.
And we should all be proud of them. We should all be working together, and we should all be trying to fund them. So I pray, seriously, I pray that we can get past this. That once this hearing is over and once we go through this process, I get it. I get some of it's got to be political theater. I understand it. I've had to really pray about my attitude.
I do think it's interesting that, you know, he brought the guy there. So the guy that's there, okay.
Running pell-mell down.
Hold on. The guy that's right behind him is the guy that he wanted to start a fight with. So I guess they got cool. I guess they found a way to get cool with each other or something like that.
I was wearing noise cancellation headphones. Never saw him coming. Running pell-mell down the hill. I was struck in the back. The force of the blow sent us through the air nearly 10 feet down the hill until his shoulder impaled me as we hit the ground. 6 of my ribs were broken. 3 of the ribs were completely separated, such that for weeks, the ends of the ribs would grind upon each other. My lung was damaged. For weeks, I could inhale, but not have the rib strength to exhale. I developed 2 pneumonias. The pain was such that I could only sit up in bed by tying a rope to the foot of the bed and pulling myself up. But even then, the pain was that of 1,000 knives. Over the year of recovery, I began to cough up blood. I underwent removal of part of my lung. Complications led to an infection in the space between my lung and chest wall. I spent a week in the hospital having the infection lavaged every 6 hours through a chest tube. Recently, Senator Mullin, if you have time to listen, you were confronted by constituents that were angry because you voted against my amendment to stop all funding for refugee welfare programs. Instead of explaining your vote to continue these welfare programs for refugees, you decided to transfer the blame. You told the media that I was a freaking snake and that you completely understood why I had been assaulted. I was shocked that you would justify and celebrate this violent assault that caused me so much pain and my family so much pain. I just wonder if someone who applauds violence against their political opponents is the right person to lead an agency that has struggled to accept limits to the proper use of force.
These are damn good questions he should be asking. I'm just saying, I mean, listen, look at what's been going on with ICE, right? There's been a lot of people side-eyeing, you know, not Tulsi Gabbard, I'm sorry, Kristi Noem, how she's been leading things, right? And all the other ones that have been involved with everything, with the leadership within DHS, with Border Patrol, with ICE, and all that. I mean, let's be real, all right? I feel like it's fair to be asking these kinds of questions to find out what the hell is going on, right? What the hell is going on? Yeah, to me, he sounds like he's a hothead. It sounds like a hothead kind of guy, you know? So, you know, this is just very weird. But again, let me just get something here really quick, because some of you guys are saying some things, saying something about bomb threats going on. So I'm trying to, something about, because I saw here, hold on 1 second, because I have it here. I mean, of course, you know, we got to take this with a grain of salt, because there hasn't really been any reports of this yet, except from this website Stripes, from Stars and Stripes. But they're saying Shepherd Air Force Base closes due to an ongoing investigation. So the missile gate at Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas, closed Wednesday because of an incident under investigation. So the traffic is being redirected to the main gate for entry on base, the installation said on Facebook. Shepherd Air Force Base is known as the Air Force's most diverse training installation, providing technically trained airmen as well as combat pilots for the NATO alliance. So the gate closure comes as bases in the U.S. are on heightened security amid concerns of threats emerging from the ongoing war in Iran. Also on Wednesday, so today, McDill Air Force Base in Florida implemented a shelter-in-place order after a threat was made against the base. The installation said in a Facebook post as well. On Monday, a suspicious package was reported at the McDill's visitor center, prompting closure of the installation's Dale Mayberry entrance gate. So, whoa. So Tuesday evening, one person was killed, another one was injured in a shooting at Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico, the service said. The incident remains under investigation. Also Tuesday, Joint Base McGuire Dix Lakehurst in New Jersey was placed at Force Protection Charlie after suspicious packages were reported on the installation. After investigation, it was determined that those packages were no threat. Wow. So you had a shooting last night where someone lost their lives. Another person got injured at Holloman Air Force Base. Then you got a McDill Air Force Base where I guess there was a suspicious package that was found there. And then you also have right here, Shepherd Air Force Base being closed, like I guess one area being closed due to, we don't know. That's the one thing I'm trying to find out. So Janobi, thank you so much for letting me know both those things. Two bases at the same damn time. Yeah. What the hell's going on? So I'm trying to find out what's going on because this is all news while we were listening to all that, but that's some breaking news, I guess. Problem is that I put in Shepherd Air Force Base and there's nothing coming up with Shepherd Air Force Base, but let me see about McDill Air Force Base. Let's see.
Good morning. Right now, we're outside of McDill Air Force Base, where it's under currently a force protection Charlie. And what that means is that there will be more security by the gate and also more personnel on the base. And this all comes just 48 hours after there was a suspicious package here that the FBI is currently investigating. Right now, we don't know what that package was or how it got there, but what I can tell you is that McDill Air Force Base is asking for everyone's patience right now. They say because they're under a force protection Charlie, they are going to be having longer security checkpoint times, which will cause traffic backups. So if you are planning on driving towards South Tampa, you may see some traffic backups occurring there as well. And we are going to keep our eyes on this situation and be sure to let you know what comes out of it. But I am going to flip my camera around right now and walk out of this car to show you guys how the current checkpoint is looking right now. So far, we have been seeing cars driving right through, and we have occasionally been seeing some backups. But like I said, we do have our eyes on McDill Air Force Base this morning.
Very interesting. McDill Air Force Base in Tampa under shelter-in-place order over threat. Let me pull this up. This is crazy. Air Force Base under shelter-in-place over threat. Man, all these pop-ups. I hate that stuff. Man, do I hate that stuff. Take a look at this. So it's saying, okay, it's under shelter-in-place. McDill Air Force Base under shelter-in-place order, according to the base's social media. officials say a threat was made against the base. So we take all threats seriously and are taking appropriate measures to prioritize the safety and security of our installation. This is what McDill wrote on social media. As a matter of policy, we will not release specifics on what the security measures have been implemented. This comes days after a suspicious device was found at the visitor center at the Dale Mabry gate on Monday, causing traffic to be diverted to the Bayshore gate. After the incident, they also announced it elevated the security level to a FPCON, I guess, Charlie. So, okay, this posture allows us to implement deliberate security measures proactively. All personnel should remain vigilant, follow the direction of security forces, and report any suspicious activity immediately. So this is what's going on right now. Now, this could be nothing, but it also could be something. So 3 U.S. airmen assigned to McDill were also among the 6 that lost their lives in that refueling aircraft crash in Iraq. I'm sorry. Although officials said the incident was not caused by enemy or friendly fire, but it also could be somebody who's mad about, like my husband or my wife or my kid should still be alive. How dare you? So on and so forth, right? So imperfect women. Anyway, very interesting. This is very, very interesting. Hold on. Somebody just said something. Not that. Where is it? Where did it go? Where did it go? Okay, Genobi, I'll look at it. Thank you for the tag. I'll take a look at it in a second. I forgot. I don't have it. I lost what I was looking for. Yeah, this is this is what I was looking for, but I can't pull it up. But they said basically this is happening during the Homeland Security hearing too. Wow. Yeah, this is all happening right now as we speak. So this is very strange, right? You have Mullin. Mullin's on the on the chopping block. He's being questioned before he actually gets assigned the job. Okay, taking over Kristi Noem's job. We'll see how he does. When he gets the confirmation, when he gets the job. But while that is happening, we got all this going on, and this is all happening in multiple in various Army bases, Air Force bases, and just military bases, which is very strange. So something's going on. I'm trying to find out what exactly it is. But give me a second, guys. Here's something. Here's a live. Hold on. We're gonna go to that live in a second. Let's take a look at this.
10 Tampa Bay breaking news now.
As we come on the air live at noon, McDill Air Force Base is under a shelter-in-place order right now after officials say they received a threat. All gates in and out of McDill are closed right now. And base officials, though, they're not commenting further on security measures, but say they take all threats seriously. This comes after McDill elevated its alert level to Force Protection Condition Charlie. That is the second highest level. 10 Tampa Bay News reporter Asha Patel explains why that alert means officials believe some form of terrorist activity could be possible.
Under Force Protection Charlie, McDill Air Force Base says that they will have more security by the gate and more personnel on the base. The Air Force Base is also asking people to be patient. Because of these new security measures, it may cause traffic backups, especially if you are driving in the South Tampa area by Bayshore and South McDill Avenue. You may start seeing some traffic backups. Now, on this social media post posted by McDill Air Force at 6 p.m. Tuesday night, they're writing, quote, all personnel should remain vigilant, follow the direction of security forces and report any suspicious activity immediately. All of this comes less than 48 hours after a security scare that shut down McDill's main gate and visitor center for hours. All traffic in and out of the base was rerouted to Bayshore Gate for nearly 6 hours as the FBI investigated a suspicious package. Officials later cleared the scene, but still haven't said what it was or how it got there. The FBI tells us the investigation remains active. Now, it's important to note strict security is already in place, including 100% ID checks, random vehicle inspections. Now, we are going to continue monitoring this situation here at McDill Air Force Base and keep you updated. In Tampa.
Interesting. Hold on. Let me pull this up here. So McDill Air Force Base on heightened alert. Hold on. There better not be a commercial.
March is National Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. Early detection.
I'm going to mute that real quick. Come on.
I'll recommend it. The Art of Learning is the name of the book. It's kind of
Come
fun.
on.
You can read it outside right.
Okay, that I thought there was going to be a video about that, but or a video in there, but I was wrong. So here we go. So the Air Force Base, McDill Air Force Base in Tampa, issued a shelter-in-place order Wednesday morning. In a social media post, officials said the issue was ordered after a threat was made against the Air Force Base. Like I just said a second ago, we take all these threats very seriously and are taking appropriate measures to prioritize the safety and security of our installation. As a matter of policy, we will not release specifics on what security measures have been implemented. More information will be released as it becomes available. 17 hours earlier, McDill also announced it was at a heightened state of alert, which was still the Force Protection Charlie. Okay, Force Protection Charlie. Force Protection Condition, okay, which is also the FPCON Charlie, which is also very interesting. I'm just reading this off the side because, of course, I'm sure all of us are wondering what the FPCON Charlie is. It is a high-level military force protection condition applied when intelligence indicates a likely terrorist attack or a hostile act has occurred targeting personnel or facilities. It indicates a serious imminent threat leading to heightened security like gate closures, vehicle inspections, and non-essential staff recall. So access restrictions. So yes, so this is very big deal. This is very, very big deal. Very big deal. So this is very interesting. Security measures might increase at the gate. Gate lanes may close, or additional security forces might be present. This comes after a suspicious package was found on Monday at the base's visitor center. The FBI is currently analyzing the package and have no further details to share at the time. We appreciate our partners, Tampa Police, Air Force OSI, and the 6th Security Forces and Civil Engineer Squadrons for their assistance. I mean, there's not much. They're not giving us much, which I totally understand them not giving us a whole lot. But this is the live feed right now as we speak. So something's up. Something's definitely up. What the hell is going on, guys? You know, you'd wish that they give us a little bit more info than this. Take a look at this.
It's 7:32, and right now security is tighter at McDill Air Force Base. And if you're heading there this morning, you can expect some delays. The base raised its security level overnight following a suspicious package investigation earlier this week. And our Matthew McClellan is live near McDill and to tell us what's changed and how things are looking out there. Good morning, Matt.
Russell, good morning. We are beginning to see some slowdowns here at 7:30 at the Dale Mabry gate at McDill Air Force Base. They are under a FPCON Charlie, that's Force Protection Condition Charlie. It is the second highest security level in the military. So a word to the wise, do allow extra time on your way in if you're headed this way this morning. FPCON Charlie, this yellow level, applies when there's an incident or intelligence is received indicating some form of terrorist action targeting personnel or facilities is likely. That means more security at the gates, as we're seeing. Also the full ID checks, which is slowing folks down, and longer wait times, yes, to get on base. The ramped up security announced just before 6 p.m. last night, and it comes after a suspicious package shut down part of McDill on Monday. First responders blocked off the Dale Mabry gate for hours before clearing the scene later that evening. The FBI still investigating. Base leaders say this new posture as of last night lets them put extra security in place ahead of any threat, and they're urging everybody to stay alert and report anything suspicious. And later today, the mission overseas hits home here in Tampa Bay. This as a local hero comes home. Major Cody Cork will arrive in Polk County around 1 p.m. He was killed in the war with Iran and just recently posthumously promoted from captain to major. A procession will escort his casket from Lakeland Linder Airport past Florida Southern College, where he once went to school, and then to a funeral home in Winter Haven.
This man is a hero, and he died in order that we can live in a free and democratic society, and he did what was asked of him of his country.
Expect traffic stops and delays along that route for about 2 hours, and officials are asking people to line the streets to honor now Major Cody Cork. Meanwhile, back here at McDill Air Force Base, Russell and Laura, under this heightened security status, base officials urging all military personnel to stay vigilant, to follow security protocols, and to report anything suspicious right away. No word yet on when this heightened security status may be lifted, Russell.
What is going on? You know, what I don't like is when they don't give us, when they don't give us enough information, right? It's just kind of like, okay, everything's on lockdown, but they don't tell us anything more, right? It's very, very odd. Hold on, let me see what's going on here. Yeah, this have a random live feed because the military base is under lockdown or under shelter in place order, but they're not really giving us anything. It's just a single live feed coming from there. Hold on. I'm trying to see if they give us a little bit more information. Hold on. Uno momento, por favor. Yeah, some of these things are from yesterday, which is kind of crazy because, again, there was a threat that happened yesterday and it's not over yet because there's clearly another threat going on right now as we speak. And then, they got their live thing going on. I find this very fascinating. Hold on, guys. I'll show you what they had yesterday. Let me do that. Same Air Force Base.
On the air tonight, heightened alert at McDill Air Force Base in Tampa. It is now operating at Force Protection Condition Charlie. It's declared when an incident or intelligence indicates some form of terrorist action targeting personnel or facilities is likely. FPCON Charlie is the second highest alert level. In a post on social media, McDill wrote, quote, all personnel should remain vigilant, follow the direction of security forces, and report any suspicious activity immediately. Base leaders also encourage people to report anything suspicious to the Base Defense Operations Center. The alert comes just 24 hours after a suspicious package prompted the shutdown of the main gate and visitors center for hours. All traffic in and out of the base was diverted to the Bayshore Gate for at least 6 hours. This is video of the scene yesterday. The FBI eventually cleared the package from the scene, but did not say what it was or how it got there. We did reach out to the FBI for an update within the last few hours. They tell us their investigation is active tonight, but referred us to McDill about whether it had anything to do with the heightened security status.
This is
We
big
did reach out
breaking.
to McDill and are waiting on a response. We do know Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst in New Jersey also declared FPCON Charlie status earlier today. Suspicious packages were reported on the installation today, but security forces determined they pose no threat. Since the war in Iran began, all bases have been at FPCON Bravo. That's one level below Charlie. We're going to stay on top of this story and bring you any updates right here on 10 Tampa Bay News.
Yeah, again, they're not giving us much. They're not giving us much information, which is very, very tragic and really annoying. Hold on, I'm looking to see if there's. Hold on. It's wild because you got stuff that's going on right now, right? You got hearings going on about worldwide threats, and now we got worldwide threats going on. You see what I'm saying? Like, this is some wild stuff. But let me see. Okay, because clearly there's not enough like breaking news about it. I'm going to keep an eye on this. I'm going to try to get some more information, but I do want to share with y'all what people are saying, what Caroline's saying about what she's saying about everything.
Lucas, thank you very much. Lucas,
shut up. What she's saying about Joe Kent and all that as well. So let's take a look at that. And don't worry, we're coming back to this. I'm trying to get as much information as I can. All right. Again, we don't know what's going on, right? This is all breaking news, but stick around. We are going to get to it. But I do want to share. I'm going to look up some more information. Hopefully we can find out more information before this video is over.
Lucas, thank you very much. Lucas talking about the bunker buster. He mentioned it's fairly new. It's been in our arsenal for about 2 years. Again, first tested in May of 2024. 5,000-pound bombs designed to destroy hardened, concrete, reinforced targets that I'll show you on the map in a moment here that help protect some of the missile sites there in the Strait of Hormuz. They can fly now, the 5,000-pound bunker busters, on F-15. So the fighter jets have much greater agility than we have seen from some of the long-range B-1 bombers coming out of Missouri. This is what CENTCOM gave us, all right? This image is the Strait of Hormuz. Show you it on a different map. This is the northern edge of Hormuz. This is the concern now for getting oil through there. What the president's talked about, allies helping out there so far, they have not given way on that. We'll see whether or not that changes throughout the day. But these are the missile locations that these bunker busters went after, all right? To date, you've got 7,000 targets struck on behalf of the U.S. and Israel, 6,500 combat flights, and you got 100, 100 Iranian vessels that belong to their navy that have been damaged or destroyed. That is significant, too. And so is this now. These are a dozen leaders in Iran's government, okay, that have been eliminated in the past 2 weeks. The Ayatollah, and then yesterday, the commander of the besieged. That's the interior militia group that really controlled the country within various Iranian cities throughout the country of Iran. The Ali Larijani, who was eliminated yesterday. And then the big news from overnight, this is Ismail Khatib. He's the Minister of Intelligence. Some suggest that there some reporting in the Wall Street Journal that once they started to destroy locations where a lot of these leaders got together, they would literally camp out in tents overnight in forests, and some of the Israeli and U.S. intelligence have led them there to eliminate some of them. But let's think about the Minister of Intelligence right now as we're bringing Caroline Leavitt from the North Lawn. And Caroline, welcome to our coverage. We got a number of things we want to run through, so thank you for your time today. First of all, on Khatib, does the United States, or does the White House believe that he was responsible for assassination attempts on President Trump?
Well, I won't comment on that intelligence, Bill, but certainly this was a known terrorist, and U.S. intelligence combined with Israeli intelligence, our great partners in this effort, is the best in the world. And of course, this man is no longer with us here on Earth, and that's a good thing for the United States, and it's a good thing for the American people who have long been threatened by this rogue terrorist regime. We're now on day 18 of this operation, and some updated numbers for you from CENTCOM this morning. We've now actually struck more than 7 7,800 targets. More than 120 Iranian naval ships are at the bottom of the ocean, have been sunk by our great military. So the objectives of Operation Epic Fury have been clear from day one, and the sheer lethality and power of the U.S. Armed Forces is on display every single day as they continue to meet these objectives and obliterate the rogue Iranian regime and their ability to threaten the United States of America, our allies, and the Middle East.
Caroline, there was news yesterday when Joe Kent, who works for Tulsi Gabbard over at the DNI, a political appointee, said he could no longer stay in his job. He was resigning over the Iran war. So he had objections. When is the last time he saw President Trump?
It's been a while. It's been a while since the president has seen him here at the White House. It's been a while since he's been involved in the process of the presidential daily briefs, and he's been actually present for the president's intelligence briefings. This was an individual who was not involved in any of the discussions pre-operation and throughout this operation. I think the president
Interesting. So he was never in the rooms at all. He was never in the rooms at all in these discussions. Nah, he wasn't there. Word? We sure about that?
It as deeply unfortunate that this individual, who the president gave the privilege of working for the administration, put out this resignation on government letterhead with many falsehoods throughout, essentially accusing the president of being manipulated by foreign governments. That's laughable and it's insulting. President Trump has been remarkably consistent on this issue of Iran for many, many years.
Okay, first off, let me just say this really quick, okay? I'm going to take down breaking news for a second, okay? Because we need to react to this, and I'm still waiting for more information about this Air Force base on lockdown, okay? So we're still waiting to find out some more updates on that, because that is crazy, all right? But Caroline, come on. We know exactly what kind of president we've been dealing with. Okay, let's just take the bombing of the school that happened in Iran. The all-girls school, it totally took out all of those kids and staff. Over 175 people lost their lives, right? Majority of them kids. Let's talk about this for a second. He was on Air Force One during a gaggle, and he said, oh, they did that bombing. It wasn't us. It was clearly the U.S. that did that, okay? And I get it. There could be, it could be fog of war. It could be miscalculations. I think a mistake happened. I don't think that America just dropped a bomb over there just to hurt a whole bunch of innocent girls. I truly believe that. All right. I do think that it was a mistake. But instead of them actually taking accountability, he just shoots from the hip and just basically says, oh, yeah, it was Iran. It was them, so on and so forth. Don't get me wrong. I think, Iran, I think they're very violent. They're very violent, or at least their regime is very violent. I don't say that about the Iranian people. I'm talking about their leadership. Very violent, I'm sure, terrible individuals, right? It wouldn't put it past them to do something diabolical over here on American soil, but would they really do that to their own kids, to their own future? No, I don't think so. But here's the other part. That shows what kind of person we are dealing with, what type of Trump we're dealing with right now. Trump is just taking whatever he hears and he manufactures whatever's in his head as truth and he goes with it. So if he has a team of people sitting there going, they're a threat, they're a threat, they're a threat, he's going to believe it. Let's be real. He's going to believe it. So of course he can be easily manipulated. Of course he could be lied to. Of course he could be pushed in a direction if you just say it in a way that he can comprehend. Right? So I truly believe, yes, I believe Trump has been messed with. I think he has been manipulated. I think maybe he's been lied to as well. Maybe he believes and trusts his team so much that whatever they say is the truth. Just saying. Sorry, it's hard to take what she's saying 110% and be like, oh yeah, that's scripture. Oh yeah, I believe what she's saying. It's absolutely right. Yeah, he was in the wrong for saying that, this guy, Joe Kent. Nah. I think he comes up to his own conclusions. His team is there trying to find ways to finesse him in ways that are going to not only feed his ego, but also feed whatever's going on in his mind. He's very set in his ways, obviously, right? But hold on. What does it say? David said a statement was made that Iran was using that location as a military location, not a mistake. Please, no excuses. Well, then there you go. There you go. You know, it's insane. No matter what, kids lost their lives, right? So again, I don't know. I don't know. Crazy.
Before he ever entered politics, he has always said Iran can never possess a nuclear weapon. So anyone who works here should be well aware of the president's intentions and his peace through strength agenda and his willingness to use the United States military to achieve peace if and when necessary, as we have seen throughout Operation Epic Fury.
There are some reports that the White House considered him to be someone who was leaking. And of course, that's obviously no good when you are at the White House. You don't want somebody like that in the administration. He was never fired over that. His boss, Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, will be testifying this morning. Does the president still have full confidence in her?
He does, yes. And we look forward to watching the director's hearings today. And I think that anyone who has been suspected of leaking or is proven to be a leaker will not be welcome in this administration. I know that for a fact because I've heard the president say it myself. There are investigations underway into leakers in this administration, and people will be held accountable for that. It's unacceptable and it cannot be tolerated.
As you just heard, we told our viewers we're watching both of those hearings and they may make news, and we'll bring them headlines when they happen. On a truth that was sent out earlier today, 7:22 a.m. Eastern time. I wonder what would happen if we, quote, finished off what's left of the Iranian terrorist
This
state
is insane.
and let the countries that use it, we don't, be responsible for the so-called Strait. That would get some of our non-responsive allies in gear and fast, President DJT. Has there been any movement overnight on behalf of our allies that has softened their position about going through the Strait of Hormuz?
Not overnight, but the president and his team, especially Secretary Hegseth and Secretary Rubio, continue to be in touch with their counterparts in Europe and, of course, our allies in the Arab and Gulf region to step up and do more to help the United States in securing the Strait of Hormuz. This is to their benefit, more so than it is to the benefit of the United States. Thanks to President Trump, we are a net exporter of energy. We don't need the Strait of Hormuz for our energy here at home. For the American people, of course, we want the strait to be open for the global oil market and to stabilize prices and bring them down again. And we have options the military has options to continue doing that. But the president is right to call on our allies to step up to do more. You know, one of President Trump's guiding principles is fairness, and he has long called that.
I think it's hilarious how we're sitting here saying we don't need the Strait of Hormuz. We don't need Hormuz Strait. We don't need it at all. So if they want it, they could have it. You know, we don't need it. But then we out here fighting for it like we do need it. So what is it? Do we need it or do we not need it? Do we need it or do we not need it? Here's the other thing too. Why bother with it if we don't need it? Dagnabbit! Why bother with it if we don't need it, baby? Why go fly in, dropping bombs on the, those triple Bs, okay, those bunker busting bombs? Why busting all up in these bunkers if we don't even want that? Why do all this deep pounding in the area if we don't even want that ass? I'm just being real. If we don't want that ass, why we smashing? Why we pounding? Why are we busting up in these bunkers if we don't want it? Think about it. Why are we straight busting all up in them bunkers if we don't even want that ass? Does that sound like a pointless war to you? Because it does to me. It really does. Again, like I said, beer. What? Beer? What? Because he got what? He got what? He drunk? Because he don't even know. He's like, whatever, man. A bunker's a bunker, brother. You know what I'm saying? Why be busting all up in them? If you don't even want that ass. Just saying.
NATO for being what he believes an unfair alliance for the American people, the American taxpayer, and our U.S. armed forces. You look at some of the trade deals with our NATO allies. The president has worked to renegotiate and reset those to make them more fair for the American people and American workers. You look at the fact that the United States has thousands of troops on our allies in NATO's soil. We're paying these countries billions of dollars, and our troops on their soil serves as a deterrent for them. And the president wants the American taxpayer and our American military to be treated fairly. He feels sometimes with NATO they are not. And he's right to call that out, and he's right to call on them to step up and do more, especially when reopening the strait benefits them even more than it does the United States of America.
There are troubles here at home as well. The Department of Homeland Security remains shut down, and Mark Wayne Mullin has his hearing. We're going to hear from him in a moment. But there were reports that the Democrats had come forward with some sort of an idea or a deal to move forward. We're going to talk to a woman who works at the TSA in the next block, and I'm curious, what would the president want her to know about his attempts to try to get a deal done? And will we see some movement on that today if the Democrats put something that is reasonable?
Well, unfortunately, we're on day 33 of this Democrat-led shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security, and they have been anything but reasonable. The White House has worked in good faith with Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill to reopen the department. We've offered them multiple binding and substantive offers to reopen DHS, including some changes to the way immigration enforcement in this country takes place. And they have rejected every single one of those offers. They've asked for concessions. We'll give them a concession, and then they say, oh, wait, that's actually not a real concession. So unfortunately, these are people who are not negotiating in good faith. You actually had a Democrat lawmaker from Virginia yesterday say that this Democrat-led shutdown is, quote, hurting the wrong people. It's hurting the American people. More than 100,000 workers going without pay. This is the third time TSA agents have been impacted by a shutdown over the last 6 months because of Democrats on Capitol Hill. It's just despicable. President Trump has been clear since day one. Fund the Department of Homeland Security. Stop playing partisan politics with the American people's paychecks.
Okay, last topic here. The SAVE Act. It appears inevitable that it does not have the 60 votes in the Senate. On that note, back to Truth Social, the president said this just yesterday. He said the Save America Act is one of the most important and consequential pieces of legislation in the history of Congress and America itself. I will never, ever endorse anyone who votes against Save America. Thank you for your attention to this matter. How big of a defeat would this be for the Trump agenda if it does go down the way we expect?
Well, Bill, I do think President Trump would reject the premise of your question that this bill is doomed to fail. He's fighting every day to get the votes needed to pass this country-saving legislation, the Save America Act, which has some of the most common sense proposals ever proposed by either party on Capitol Hill. Voter ID, who could be against it? 90% of Americans support it. No mail-in ballots, which we know create a tremendous amount of fraud in our electoral system, with common sense exceptions, of course, for those in our military and others. No more transgender mutilation surgeries for young minor children. Again, a 90% issue supported by the American people. No men in women's sports, and proof of citizenship to vote. These are common sense proposals that the president of the United States supports because he knows the vast majority of the people in this country support. And every senator on Capitol Hill, both Republican and Democrat, frankly, would be wise to vote for this legislation because it's in the best interest of their constituents and our country to do so. We're working with the Senate on this daily, and the president is a fighter. As you know, he's not going to give up the fight on this one.
Just going back to the start of the first part of that answer, are you predicting victory then?
I'm not predicting victory, but I'm not predicting defeat either. I trust in President Trump and his ability to wheel and deal with senators on Capitol Hill, and he's not given up on this piece of legislation, let me tell you.
Well, I admire the craft, Caroline. Very good.
Caroline. Caroline. Interesting. I will say that. Interesting.
Let's go to Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst live in Tel Aviv after visiting the site of where one of those missiles landed. Trey?
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. I do want to start with the breaking news we brought you last hour. Ismail Khatib, the intelligence minister of Iran, was taken out in a strike overnight. We are told this was a joint Israeli and American intelligence effort. Khatib was one of the individuals responsible for taking down the internet in Iran, and also someone who was tracking Iran's terror cells around the world, sleeper cells in countries that officials here tell us were threatening U.S. politicians and even President Trump. You mentioned off the top, overnight Israel came under new Iranian fire with cluster munitions raining down on the population below. Today, we visited one of those sites just outside of Tel Aviv where 2 people were killed. One neighbor describes what he saw and heard.
And I hear one boom, very strong. And the light, it's up and down, all the glasses. I hear all the glasses. I tell my wife it's out, and it's in the house. He tell me, don't open the door. After 2-3 minutes, I open, I see all the smoke.
You can see here the aftermath of an Iranian cluster munition impact just outside of Tel Aviv. 2 people were killed at this location. These small bomblets exploding in different areas of Tel Aviv,
Crazy.
raining down on the population below. We are here with Nadav Shoshani, the spokesperson for the international press of the IDF. Nadav, what happened here?
Well, the Iranian regime has been firing. They've been doing this since day one of the war. They've been firing cluster bombs. Even when they are intercepted, they break off to dozens of smaller bombs the size of rockets, and then the sites of impact can be deadly, like in this place where they killed 2 70-year-old people.
And there's no precision in this. These are just raining down on the population.
We know this also from intelligence, but also from the type of munitions. Then the Iranians are purposely targeting civilians, firing these cluster bombs towards the center of mass populations. These cluster bombs break into dozens of rockets who disperse over miles in the center of a large city and causing this damage to civilian houses.
The Israelis are striking back. There are reports this hour of a new wave of strikes against the Iranian regime going after gas infrastructure there. Guys?
All right, Trey, real quick, on Hezbollah, is it true that their actions are so...
Let me show you what he's talking about, the gas infrastructure. Here's something from a drop site. Okay, so Israel has struck Iran's South Pars gas field, the world's largest natural gas field, and a core pillar of Iran's energy supply. Take a look at this. Obviously, there's no sound to this, but fascinating stuff that's going on right now. Okay, the major escalation comes alongside reported impacts on other oil and petrochemical facilities. Okay, so IRGC linked Tasnim News issued an urgent warning urging people to immediately leave major oil and gas sites in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, saying that they have become direct and legitimate targets that could be struck within hours. Now, this was 3 hours ago, this posting. But again, I mean, this is the real deal, okay? So Qatar, places in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. The report added previously clear and reported warnings were given to your rulers about entering this dangerous path and gambling with the fate of their nations. Now they're going after natural gas fields. So now that's happening, guys. Now that is happening. Let's continue.
Anger the Lebanese that they're starting to lose political standing within that country, that even Hamas has questioned the reasoning and rationale behind rocketing Israel at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen a shift in tone from the Lebanese prime minister, who last week was calling on Hezbollah to stand down and not get directly involved in this war. But overnight, Hezbollah launched dozens of rockets over the border, sending people in northern Israel back into bomb shelters, a significant amount of damage in a number of different locations. The ground forces, though, will be an interesting dynamic in all of this. I spoke with a senior Israeli military official who said that Hezbollah's Radwan forces, these are the special forces that were previously south of the Litani River, have been decimated in the Israeli strikes, not just over the past week and a half, but also during the war last year. And this has indicated that there's actually just several hundred Radwan forces south of the Litani, where there used to be thousands. And so as Israeli troops move deeper into southern Lebanon and they continue to strike the Hezbollah stronghold of southern Beirut, the Dakhya neighborhood, this will continue to weaken Iran's largest proxy in the region, and it gives the Iranian regime less ability to fire on Israel using this terrorist group in Lebanon. Guys?
And Israel would have left them alone, right? They never would have sent rockets into Lebanon, but Lebanon started sending rockets simultaneously with Iran.
Yeah, there was actually a ceasefire in place that was ushered in by the Trump administration. Tom Barak and Morgan Ortagus and other Trump administration officials had been working behind the scenes to try and create some stability between Israel and Lebanon, understanding that Hezbollah still had thousands of rockets and missiles in their arsenal. Hezbollah decided on their own to get directly involved and launched missiles and rockets over the border. And these rockets, while they are less precise than the rockets and missiles that we see from other proxies and the Iranian regime itself, they cause a lot of damage, and they can fire dozens at a time still. And it is an incredibly difficult threat for the population of northern Israel. Israeli officials tell Fox News they still believe that Hezbollah has more than 10,000 rockets and missiles in their arsenal that could be used against Israel. And that is part of the reason that you are seeing these heavy strikes against the Dakhya neighborhood of southern Beirut, where many of these commands are being ordered from.
Interesting. Let me show you guys something. This is allegedly they're saying that this is the package hold on, sorry. This is apparently the package that they found yesterday. Take a look at this. Remember the package that they're saying. So they're saying that this was here's the suspicious package found that led to the increase in the FP-Con Charlie. So this is what the package looked like. Take a look at that. So like 2 Pepsi bottles with a wire sticking out of them, duct tape tops with wire taped to, a wire of some sort coming out of the top of one of them. There's a gasoline tank container off to the side over there. Like, what is that? That looks suspicious as hell. I would be that's suspicious. Okay? That's hella suspicious. This is at the McDill Air Force Base. Okay. Yeah, like they yeah, a Timu boom boom. A Timu boom boom. Yeah. That's the package that they found. Understandably, I'd be worried about that too. Now, I don't know what's inside the actual containers, but I can see why people would be concerned about, I can see why there was a lockdown yesterday, right? And like I said, I find it very interesting that the likes of counterterrorism, okay, one of the heads of counterterrorism, Tulsi Gabbard, was in a hearing today. Then you also have the new head, soon to be the new director or the new secretary of the of Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security. Both of them are having hearings today. And we got a lot of stuff that's going on U.S. soil right now. Now, yes, they're not, they're not missiles coming from the likes of Pakistan or something of that sort, but still, we still do have domestic terrorists going on, or at least false flags false attempts, if not real attempts. But that's what was found on the Air Force Base. Yeah. So again, very strange stuff. Sorry, I'm trying to see if there's anything more. The shelter in place thing, it's just so strange. Like they're not really giving us much about that. Hold on. Yeah, even the live feed that they had of the McDill Air Force Base has cut out. They stopped live streaming that. So we still got to wait and see what's going on. Sorry, guys, 1 second. I'm trying to find if there's anything else here.
Evacuation orders have been issued by Qatar for two of these energy facilities following this threat from Iran. But in general, there is anger and frustration here in Qatar and in other Gulf countries with Israel for targeting this huge gas field in Iran today. Israel targeting the South Pars gas field, which is the largest in the world. It means now that Qatar and other Gulf countries will be bracing for potentially intensified attacks from Iran targeting their energy facilities. But it needs to be said that in terms of escalation, Iran has already been trying to target energy infrastructure here in Qatar and other Gulf countries, in particular in the UAE. We've seen them already repeatedly hit energy infrastructure and cause significant damage here in Qatar. All LNG production is suspended because of the threat posed by Iranian attacks. Again, today we've heard interceptions as missiles and drones were launched. It's entirely possible some of them were already aimed at energy infrastructure here. I think in many ways, people looking at this believe the really worrying thing is that by targeting this huge gas field in Iran, that perhaps signals that Israel now may be moving to go again after Iran's energy and oil production. And the danger from that is that markets again will be spooked and we will see oil prices start to rise. Without question, what we are seeing is that the energy crisis here appears to be deepening again, Alex.
All right, Patrick Rewell for us. Thank you. And for more, I want to bring in former U.S. Army Commander, retired Lieutenant General Daniel Karbler. General, thank you so much for your time today. And listen, I'm curious, in your estimation, how much of an escalation is it for Iran to issue evacuation orders around energy assets in neighboring Gulf countries?
Yeah, anytime that you're asking your civilian or your workforce to evacuate, obviously you're concerned about attacks. You're concerned about your ability to protect yourself. So it's something that has to be taken very seriously. This whole escalation of striking different energy fields, whether it's in Iran or striking back at our Gulf partners, is something that's going to be figured into the calculus of now, what do we defend? What do we attack? I think Israel striking at oil fields might have been an action that wasn't fully coordinated with the U.S. efforts.
Yeah. Whoa. So it's like, hey, why are you doing that? We didn't talk about that, Israel. Why are you going after the energy now? Why are you going after the energy assets? What's up with that, man? We didn't talk about that. We ain't never talked about that. That's wild if that's the case. Yeah, that would be very, very wild. Super May, thank you so much for the super sticker. I really do appreciate it. Yeah. So please, guys, do me a favor. Hit that like button down below. Can we get it to 1K? Can we get it to 1K really quick? That would really mean the world to me. And also, obviously, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done that yet. We're in the 200,000. We're in the 200K world, y'all. We're 200K. It's amazing. And so please make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Become a part of the family. That'd be greatly appreciated. Let's continue on.
And so right now we're going to have to respond to that, and again, see how it splits out in terms of what we're going to defend, what we're able to defend, and what our Gulf partners are able to defend.
Well, and also bigger picture here, looking that we're now in the third week of this conflict, what are some adjustments that our military has had to make?
Yeah, certainly we've got to, whether you're on the defensive side, you're looking at your interceptor use, those Patriots and THAADs. We don't have an infinite amount of them. So now how you employ them against what threats. We've had to make adjustments to make sure that we have the right capabilities to counter drones that are coming in. You've heard the discussion throughout the past several weeks that we don't want to spend, $4 million interceptors to intercept the $20,000 drones coming in. And then on the offensive side, we've had to take a look at the different target lists. The initial targeting was to get rid of Iranian military capabilities, Iranian Navy. Now it's, hey, the Strait of Hormuz has got to be opened up. So let's get after the Iranian mine lane ships. Also, you saw some of the news reports earlier today about, huge bombing efforts right along the Iranian coast, close to the Strait of Hormuz, to try to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. So you'll see continued advances of our targeting to continue on with helping us to meet our strategy.
Okay. Retired Lieutenant General Dan Karbler, hey, thank you so much for your time today, sir. And back here at home, a big day for the economy with the Federal Reserve set to release its decision on interest rates. It's the first time we'll hear from the Fed since the war with Iran began, and things don't look so good. The average price for a gallon of gas nationwide is at $3.86, up almost $1 since this war started. The price of oil is hovering near $100 a barrel, up over 40% the last couple of weeks. And all of this is leading to fears of growing inflation as consumers face cost increases in shipping, plane tickets, and food at the grocery store. The Fed's decision comes at 2 p.m. Eastern, and we will bring it to you live when that happens. And as the price of plane tickets soars, airports are being forced to close security checkpoints because of the lingering government shutdown. And as you can imagine, passengers aren't happy about it.
I didn't come 2 hours earlier. I'd missed my flight. Look at this line. It's long. I hope I don't miss my flight.
I hope he doesn't either. TSA officers are calling out in record numbers because they still aren't getting paid, and that could lead to really big problems as well.
We are playing baseball without a shortstop right now. It's no secret that call-offs are on the rise. There's staffing shortages. It's a national security issue, especially during the spring break rush.
Yeah, I want to bring in transportation reporter Sam Sweeney, along with Elizabeth Worthington from our ABC station in Philly, WPVI, joining me now both. And Elizabeth, I want to start with you. Listen, you're at the airport, Philadelphia International. What are delays looking like, and how long are TSA lines today?
Well, Alex, at this current moment, it's really not too bad. But as we all know, that can change on a dime, and we definitely expect it to pick up later this afternoon. This is currently not generally a very busy time at the airport, this midday hour. But we just talked to some people who got off the plane from Chicago, and they laughed at this. They said this is nothing right now. So they waited over an hour at Chicago O'Hare this morning. Right now, we're seeing wait times of around 18 to 23 minutes at this terminal. So like you said, there are some shutdowns to some of these checkpoints. Right now, we have 3 checkpoints that are currently not open at the airport. That leaves just 2. That's where everybody else is going, and that's definitely leading to some longer delays. One was shut down last week, and then as of this morning, another 2 went offline. So we've seen a bit of a mixed bag. It was definitely busier this morning, and then late morning to midday, it's kind of slowed down. We do expect it to pick back up again later this afternoon.
I mean, at this point, what's the point of even traveling right now? What's even the point? Seriously, I mean, I don't mean to be mean. But like, what's the point? What's the point of even doing that now? What's the point now? We got something to look at here. I'm going to let this finish about this traveling, but man, I get it. Everybody, like, you know, no one knew that this was going to happen. Nobody predicted this to happen. They got spring break tickets. They got, you know, like the weather's getting better. So people are wanting to travel. People are wanting to get out of town. But I feel like there's going to be a lot of road trips coming up. You see what I'm saying? Like DHS is shut down. So to even get through, some people are sitting in there for 3 to 4 hours just to get through security checkpoints. That is absolutely insane. You know what I'm saying? So, like, personally, man, if you could do a road trip, might as well just do that road trip. You know, maybe cancel that trip to Jamaica. You know, just saying, until things get back to normal, if ever they get back to normal. But, you know, then here's the other thing. You know, you have plans on maybe traveling, but you haven't bought those tickets yet. You haven't bought those tickets yet, man. I'm just saying. Airline tickets are about to skyrocket now because of gas, because of the price of gas. So again, like it sucks, but I'm like, even road trips sound expensive now. Even doing a little road trip sounds expensive. So it just kind of sucks. All right, it sucks. Air travel is expensive to begin with. They are charging you out the ass for everything. Everything. You want some water? It's like, yeah, that's $3, please. $3 for a little bottle like this big. You know what I'm saying? Like some places they rob you of your ish. It is insane. Now, let me just play this last piece real quick of this.
And it's going to be a pretty busy weekend. We do know that some spring break travelers are probably going to hit the airport this weekend. So we do think that things might get a little bit worse. So definitely plan ahead and get here as soon as you possibly can, because you might be waiting a little bit longer here at PHL. But this is certainly not the worst that we're seeing across the country. And here in Philly, it's certainly not the worst that we've ever seen. So people are definitely taking it in stride. Alex?
Yeah, taking it
in stride, my booty, okay? Taking it in stride, my ass, all right? People are mad. People are angry. There's some things I need to find. There are some things I want to show y'all. But first, real quick, let me grab this piece, because one of y'all mentioned it before, and I do want to share with y'all, because Tucker Carlson is going to be having Joe Kent on his show tonight. So probably, because I got an engagement to be at this evening, or in the early evening. So most likely I will be back to watch this with y'all tonight. Okay, because I would really like to hear what Joe Kent has to say. And it's on Tucker Carlson's platform, no less. But apparently he is going to be on Tucker Carlson's show at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. Live, allegedly. So most likely I will watch it tonight with you guys afterwards. No, I won't be on Court TV today. Okay. But yeah. So God willing, if I can get back in this room in time where it's not too late, we will watch it together. If we don't, then we'll watch it in the morning, when we do our little morning show, okay? Like these shows that we've been doing lately, right? But I think it's going to be a very, very interesting interview nonetheless. But this is an old video, apparently, that he talked to him last year. This is Joe Kent on Tucker Carlson's show last year, January of 2024. The same Joe Kent that resigned today or yesterday, okay, as the NCTC director, laying out exactly what he predicted a war with Iran would look like. Tucker called it the most reasonable, common sense, factual assessment I've seen from anyone. So what he predicted, it will be very bloody. Reality, 13 service members have lost their lives. American service members have lost their lives. He predicted everyone in Iran will rally around their leader. Iranians danced in the streets when Khamenei was killed. They celebrated Larijani's death today. The regime had shut down the internet and deployed security forces to stop Iranians from rising up. One doctor called it the best night of our lives. Kent predicted Iranian proxies throughout the region would conduct massive attacks. Iran's proxy network, Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthis, they was already largely dismantled before the war began. The IRGC infrastructure that funded and directed them has been systematically destroyed over 18 years. We've been playing right into China's hands. China is now, what he predicted, we'd be playing right into China's hands. Reality, China is now being asked to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz, the waterway carrying their own oil, and being told that failing to do so will affect the Trump-Xi summit. The leverage is reversed. Remember, Trump was supposed to be going over there in the next couple weeks. He's supposed to be going over to China to meet with the head of China, Xi Jinping, and that has been postponed. They say that they're rescheduling, but I really don't think China wants to have anything to do with America right now. Let's be real, because this is messing with their pockets. The Strait of Hormuz and what Trump is doing in there right now is messing with China's pockets, which is a huge problem. Another prediction that Kent predicted, opening Pandora's box. Absolute insanity. So, reality. Trump says it would be wrapped up very soon, but that's not true. He said, oh, it will only be a couple days. Then he said, oh, it's going to be a couple weeks. Now he's saying it's going to be a couple weeks or, several weeks. And now he after that, he says, oh, I can stop it whenever I want to. Well, if you want to stop it whenever you want to, how about stopping it now? How about that? How about that? Stop it right now. Just do that for me. Stop it right the F now, right? So the Iranian people are celebrating in the streets. That's true. The regime's nuclear program is buried under the rubble. This is the man Tucker called the most reasonable analyst he'd ever heard on Iran. Okay, this is the man who just resigned as America's counterterrorism director, saying that Iran posed no threat. He was wrong. So according to this particular post, this guy's saying that he was wrong on every prediction, right on schedule with the resignation. Very interesting. Let's take a look at this.
Let me just ask you one last question, because he called it 60 years ago. You referred to what a war with Iran would do to the United States. And I don't know that a lot of people in this country fully understand what Iran is as a nation state. It's not Afghanistan. What do you think the immediate and then longer term effects of a war with Iran would be on the United States?
Immediately, it would be very bloody. I have no doubt that we could probably defeat some of their air defense and go in there and have another shock and awe campaign. But again, like we saw how the shock and awe campaign in Iraq really didn't actually work in the long run. So I have no doubt that we'd have some immediate results that people would cheer about here in the United States. But Iran, Persia has always been an empire. It's been around longer than any of the other players in the modern Middle East right now, and they are not going anywhere. And right now, Iran has a lot of internal problem. They have a lot of internal strife with the Ayatollah and that government that's only been in power since 1979. But again, if we start conducting strikes in Iran, everyone in Iran will rally around their leader and they will become even more revolutionary. And then we will have Iranian proxies throughout the entire region that will be conducting attacks just like we had in Jordan. And really in the long term, Tucker, the axis that has been built really since Putin invaded Russia and we decided that since Putin invaded Ukraine and we decided we were going to throw this massive sanctions package at them, China has come in as a major player and we are deeply compromised by China. They control a lot of our economy. They control global manufacturing. They're deeply embedded in Wall Street. And they've also made deals with the Iranians. They want access to Iranian petro, not to mention the fact that Biden killed off U.S. energy independence and now he's going after LNG. And the world's biggest LNG exporters are Iran, Russia, and Qatar. So this axis would become very powerful. If we get deeply involved and deeply entangled with Iran, we are playing right into China's hands because China would like nothing more than for us to be committing our military industrial base to a war in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, and then to be committing our conventional military power, our blood and our treasure back in the Middle East. That will make the Pacific, our actual border, extremely vulnerable to Chinese aggression, or China will simply just watch us bleed out economically as we bleed out on the battlefield on these couple different theaters. It's absolute insanity. It's opening up Pandora's box. And again, for what gain to the American people?
He's got a point there. I see the point. I see his point of like, what's the point? China would just sit back and go ahead, keep on messing things up, keep stretching yourself super thin. So when we see an opening and an opportunity to strike, we can. I can see that. It sounds, Purple, it sounds reasonable to me. Sounds reasonable to me to start asking these questions. You're doing the dirty work. You're doing the heavy lifting for a country that doesn't need to do the heavy lifting. Unless they're like, now, wait a second. Now you're reaching in my pocket now. Don't touch my money. Don't you be messing with my money now. Hold up. Why are you touching my oil? Hold on. You're messing with my oil, baby. Back off. Everything else is cool, but you starting to mess with how I'm getting my money and how my country runs. Hold up. Hold up now. You better chill the F out. This is not okay. Okay? This is not okay. Right? So again, there's pieces of it that do make sense. In my personal opinion, there are pieces of this that do make sense. These are predictions. He's not going to be right on everything. All right. But I understand what his thought process is. Here's the other thing too. He's working for Trump. So if he was talking and saying crazy things that were unhinged back then, wouldn't Trump know about this? Wouldn't he know about what, the person who's the director of the National Counterterrorism Center thinks about what's going on overseas? And whether or not we should be sticking our nose into business that we maybe don't need to be sticking our nose into? Just a thought. But nonetheless, he's going to be back on tonight talking about all this, about his resignation and why he left and all that. And I'm quite curious about it too. I'm quite curious about why he resigned. I mean, there's got to be more to this. There's got to be a whole lot more to this. Now, J.D. Vance was speaking at an event. Hold on. And apparently he said some things that are very interesting. Hold on.
Because here's the thing, I landed, I don't even remember which airport we landed in, but it was about a 20-minute drive from there to here. And I was looking around and I was thinking to myself, again, this is why, even though I'm an Ohio State guy, I love this state, it reminded me so much of my hometown. You've got some of these beautiful old homes that I saw, places that are harken back to an era of American greatness when we built these beautiful buildings. And some of them looked amazing, and some of them, let's be honest, looked like they were struggling. I drove through some areas that were clearly struggling. I realized America
Come on.
really at stake in this election in November is fundamentally we've done so much good, and we've built so much, and we've been able to do a lot for the American people. But the Democrats threatened to take us straight back to where we were just a few short years ago. And we all know the economic statistics. We all know the fact that we felt it in our pockets, that everything from groceries to our home electricity bill was going up at a level that it hadn't gone up in 40 years under Joe Biden. But it's not just that. Because the American dream, my friends, as you all know, it's not just about going out and being able to buy something, as important as that is. It's not just about the economics, the dollars and cents, though, of course, we demand that our citizens become more prosperous. It's also about peace and security. It's about being safe in your own home. It's about what I think of as a classic American idea that just because you grew up in a poor family like mine doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to walk down the street in safety and security in your own country. And that is what Joe Biden...
You know what's going to happen? People are going to have to go and walk down the street because they won't be able to afford the gas anymore. That's a problem. So you can hearken back in the days when you lived in the Appalachian Mountains and, with the yens and everything. Okay, eating nothing but taters and crawfish. You can do all that crap all day long, but that doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the fact of what's going on right now. And we got a big problem right now. And you're driving by seeing all these buildings and businesses and houses that are dilapidated and whatnot. Oh, okay, cool. That's cool. Yeah, there might be more houses and more businesses dilapidated because you're not trying to change anything. Everything's getting worse. The hottest country it's ever been is the hottest country in the world. We're the hottest country in the world. And then what happened? What happened now? We losing money. People are getting poorer. The poorer are getting poorer. It's not getting good. Let me skip ahead. Let me skip ahead real quick. I could have sworn. Hold on. In fact, let me just pull this up. Do I have it? Yes. Yes, I do. Apparently, he said something about gas prices, right? He says this is a temporary blip. Under the Biden administration, gas prices were high for 4 years. Gas prices are higher right now, and frankly, they're not even as high as they were in certain parts. Okay, sure. They're not as high as they were in certain parts during the Biden administration, but it's still going to get higher.
Hi, Mr. Vice President. Brett Tast with WXYZ here in Detroit. Thank you for taking questions. We're seeing gas prices here climbing at home, in particular here in Metro Detroit with what's going on with Iran and the impacts in the Strait of Hormuz. What is the administration doing to help keep gas prices down, and where do you see gas prices going here in the near future?
Well, the President of the United States has been crystal clear about this. Look, gas prices are up, and we know they're up, and we know that people are hurting because of it, and we're doing everything that we can to ensure that they stay lower. I will say, the President said this, and I certainly agree with it. This is a temporary blip, okay? What happened under the Biden administration is that gas prices were high for 4 years. Gas prices are higher right now, and frankly, they're not even as high as they were during certain parts of the Biden administration because of what's going on in the Middle East. It's not going to last forever. We're going to take care of business. We're going to come back home. And when that happens, you're going to see energy prices come back down to reality. But in the meantime, we got a problem. We know that we have a problem. We're doing everything that we can to address it.
Okay. So he's doing everything he can to address it, yet nothing's changing overseas. Because a lot of it is a reflection on what's going on overseas. Am I right or am I right? So it doesn't even matter. So as much as they say, oh, yeah, it's not as bad as it was during the Biden administration. True. It's not that as bad as it was. But it's getting there, guys. It's freaking getting there. You can push back all day long. It doesn't matter. Okay? You can push back all day long. The only thing you can do is show us. You can sit here and make excuses, point blame at other administrations. You guys are the administration, not Biden. Biden done. Okay? He served his country. He did his thing. Let it be. Okay? He wasn't perfect. No, none of these presidents are. And I'm not even here to defend Biden and his term. Well, let's get down to brass tacks. You talk about gas prices being low. You talk about us being the hottest country in the world. And now we're in a war that's completely obliterating all the things that you guys have been saying out here for the past year. So what is it going to be? Are you going to fully take full responsibility over the fact that these prices are going up because of choices that you and your administration made? Or are we just going to continue to start going back to the days of yore? Remember the time when Biden was here? Yeah, he done mucked it up. Remember that? Yeah, we mucking it up right now, but he mucked it up bad back then. That's trash. Take responsibility and accountability for the choices that you guys are making right now and fix it. Fix the problem. Fix the freaking problem. by maybe pulling troops, warships, and all that out of the freaking Middle East and call it a mother-loving day. Because right now, dropping bombs on it, putting bunker busting bombs, busting all up in these bunkers on land in an area that allegedly y'all are saying you don't even want and don't care to have, is not making the situation any better, baby. It's not. It's not. People are very upset about this situation. Okay? Hold on. Let's see what that says. Hold on. There it is. This is wild. I can't believe that this is even real, but let me share this with y'all. People aren't happy about this situation. They're not. And this is from NBC. This is insane. This woman calls out Trump. This guy's at the gas station asking questions. This is insane. This is insane. I still am wondering if this is even real.
Trump. Let's take a listen to one more woman who we spoke with. If you could say something to President Trump and he was going to hear you right now, what would it be?
You're a worthless pile of
Wow.
And you voted for him how many times?
3 times. That was my bad. Apparently, I'm an idiot.
Trump.
Real talk. Real talk. People are not happy. I still wonder if that's real. I still wonder if that's real because that's just insane. That being shared. Hold on. Just hilarious. Hold on. Oh. No, it's real. Oh my God, that's real. It's real.
We're down.
Hold on, that can't be real. Is it real? Hold on, let's check out the full clip.
Lower than we've been in 7 years in gasoline prices and oil prices, not just the 3 states that I talk about with $1.99 a gallon. How would you like to have $1.99? You know, that's the equivalent of a very major tax cut.
Welcome back. Now, that was President Trump in Pennsylvania back in December, touting low energy and gas prices. Today, the average price for a gallon of gas in Pennsylvania is $3.76, according to AAA. That's higher than last week, and it's up more than 60 cents from a month ago. NBC News senior national politics reporter John Allen has been speaking with Pennsylvania voters. He's been out kind of on a road trip here in Millersburg, about 25 miles north of Harrisburg. He joins me now. And John, I understand you're sort of in a Trump supportive part of Pennsylvania. And
You'd be surprised how it's Trump land in a lot of Pennsylvania. I just want to make that abundantly clear. It's crazy how heavily MAGA it is in the Pennsylvania area. All right. It's pretty wild.
there are a lot of those in Pennsylvania. What are you hearing about how people there are feeling about gas prices, and are they factoring that in how they view the war in Iran?
Well, first, Kelly, I would be remiss if I did not wish Kelly O'Donnell a happy St. Patrick's Day.
Right back at
so
you,
happy
my
St.
friend.
Patrick's Day.
I'm genetically required to be
part
in
of
green.
Pennsylvania. And,
I'm sorry.
I
Go
can't see
ahead,
you right
John.
now,
Go
but
ahead.
I'm
You're
sure
on the
you
road
look
trip
lovely
here.
and green. Okay, so I'm in Millersburg, Pennsylvania. The reason I'm here is it's a swing district, Pennsylvania's 10th district in a swing state. President Trump won this district by about 5 points, but the local congressman, Scott Perry, is in danger of losing in the midterms. And we wanted to talk to people about their feelings about gas prices, about the war. You mentioned Pennsylvania's average gas price about $3.76 a gallon right now. We went to like the cheapest place around, $3.54.9 a gallon here, and talk to folks. Better you hear from them than from me about how they're feeling.
Let's roll the tape.
The decision to strike Iran.
I think it was a great decision. I think somebody else should have done it a couple of years ago, the last 3 other presidents.
Are you willing to pay higher prices at the pump if that's the cost?
Yeah, I'm willing to pay a little more, yeah.
What do you think about the war?
I think he's doing the right thing. You know, in the long run, it's going to help us out because if they get nuclear weapons, we might not even be here in a couple of years. So I think he's doing a good job.
Is it worth the rise in the price of gas?
Yeah, I think so.
What do you think about the U.S. decision to go into Iran?
I think we got to do what we got to do to keep this country safe. So, and if it means paying a little bit more in gas right now to keep everybody safe, then that's what we got to do. And eventually they'll come back down.
And Kelly, most of the people we talked to were supportive of the war and willing to pay the higher gas prices for the war. Some of them because they believe in the goals of the war, others because they trust President Trump. But not everybody felt that way. Not everybody's excited about Trump here, and not everybody's planning to vote for Republicans in the midterms who supported Trump. Let's take a listen to one more woman who we spoke with.
Yo.
If you could say something to President Trump and he was going to hear you right now, what would it be?
You are a worthless pile of
At least somebody said something that wasn't like, well, if we got to do what we got to do, then that's what we got to do. Crazy.
And you voted for him how many times?
3 times. That was my bad. Apparently, I'm an idiot.
Wow. She said it.
So not
lots
everyone
of personality
is
there,
with President
John.
Trump, as you
Lots
heard,
of
Kelly.
personality. Yes.
Right. Not everyone's thrilled with him. That was a voter who voted for him 3 times. She went on to talk about the gas prices. She went on to talk about the war, about not supporting the idea of us in, basically going around the world. So a lot to process there. But this is going to be the real pressure test for President Trump and Republicans in the midterms, is how many of the people who voted for him are A, sticking with Republicans, and B, going to show up in the midterms. And I think that's still an open question here, just several months out from those midterms, Kelly.
Let me just say this. You're going to hear a lot of people like that. And I'm talking about both sides. You're going to hear people who are hardcore Trump supporters, hardcore MAGA, voted for him three times, wanted him to run this country, blah, 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 that are going to react in the way that are like, hey, we got to do what we got to do. If this is how we got to, if this is what we got to do to protect our country, this is what we got to do to protect our country. And then there's going to be other people who are literally going to be pissed off because they're like, yo, this is digging into my way of living. I do not like the fact that gas prices are going up. Cost of living is going up. And of course, a lot of people are very concerned about what is going to be the outcome in the near future when it comes to everything else. It's not only just oil, because things can get very expensive. Just export, groceries, etc. Things that are actually getting brought into the country that could literally lead to us having to pay over, crazy amounts of money just so we can survive. So there are going to be people that are going to be pissed off like that, calling out Trump and saying you need to do better. Some are going to literally say, hey, we're doing what we got to do so that we can, protect this country and keep, the bad guys at bay, right? Well, I mean, obviously, as you guys can see, it's very polarizing no matter what. There are people who are for this. There are people who are not for this. Me, myself, I'm not for this war that's going on overseas. I think it's very bad. I think it's very bad. I think it's not good. And I think only time will tell. I also think, someone just said, where is it? Yes, Purple. I agree, Purple. It'll sway people. Either they're going to look at him and go, he's crazy, Joe Kent, because apparently, Tucker Carlson's having Joe Kent on his show. He just resigned from his job, very high level job in counterterrorism, so he knows things. So Tucker Carlson is going to have an interview with him. This could very well sway people. It either can sway them in the way of, yep, he's crazy, we were wrong, he's out of his freaking mind, and he's the liar. Or it's going to be like, oh my damn, we have been lied to. The American public have been lied to by the Trump administration again, because this is not the first time that they have lied to us. Let's be real. No disrespect, but it's not the first time. And it may not be the last with this administration. So let's see what happens. It could very well sway people on the side of, yep, we're being lied to. This is a big problem. He knows things, and he exposes why he knows what he knows. Or he may go up there and start talking and be like, I have birds sitting in making nests in my head when I go to bed. You know what I'm saying? Like he just may sound completely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. We'll see what happens. You know, hopefully Tucker Carlson asks all the right questions. That's what I'm hoping for. Janobi, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Have a feeling Iraqi people will not rise to make their government. I learned from deployment, people band together when how they have felt towards a common thought stands with them. Sunni and Shia put differences aside against perceived threats. Yeah, I mean, I don't, as much as they say, Trump said, hey, there's an opportunity for you guys to rise up and take over the regime and start a new Iran, right? None of that has happened. We have not seen the people get together and then just take over like a full-on coup. You know what I'm saying? Which is basically kind of what I think Trump was hoping for, that the people would rise up and just completely cannibalize the evil, cannibalize the regime, and then they would start a brand new. You know what I mean? They'd start anew, but that didn't happen. You just had them out in the streets dancing, celebrating that Khamenei is gone, that he's dead, and everybody was celebrating, and that's it. So far, everybody's just been chilling. We have not heard anything about the people rising up and taking over. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. You see what I'm saying? I don't know what's going on. But you'd think that they would take this opportunity to take it down, right? Rich Buddy, thank you so much for the next two super chats. This reminds me of McCarthyism in the 1950s. Yeah. Kent will be on Tucker Carlson's. Yep, and this is how I found out through you, Rich Buddy. So I appreciate you sending this to me because I'm definitely going to be watching it when it goes live. But I just won't be able to be live with you guys until a little bit later. That is if I am able to get here in time where it's not too late. Allie, thank you so much for becoming a member. I think you're just re-upping. And Jamaican Rose, thank you so much for becoming American. Thank you so much for becoming a member. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Beautiful Messy Ball, thank you so much. Appreciate it. The incident in New Mexico was a domestic husband and wife. Oh, that's terrible. I didn't know. That's crazy. Black Lake, China. Yeah. Everything that's going on over there, because I'm trying to remember exactly what I said during the time that I saw this in the corner of my eye, your super chat. My thoughts are, what good would it be for us to do all of this for the likes of China? You see what I'm saying? They're not an ally. We're not chummy with them. We are constantly side-eyeing China like crazy. So a part of me is like, are we, how sure we are? How sure are we? Okay. How sure are we with China, right? But China will be pissed off, I'm sure. And I'm sure that's what's happening right now with everything that's going on in the Strait of Hormuz. It's making things possible. It's making things very difficult, in my personal opinion. Oops. Rather guy, thank you so much for the love. I appreciate it. I feel like all of us are stuck between two parents going through a divorce and using the kids as weapons against each other. Yeah, ain't that the truth, though? Doesn't it kind of feel like that? It kind of does. You know, like I said this before, and I feel like other people have used this analogy now. Since now I put it out there, I feel like it's now a general vibe. But it does feel like we're like in this crazy abusive relationship. You know, that's what it feels like. It does. And it's like, oh, we left that terrible toxic relationship, and now that toxic relationship is back in our lives again. You know, giving it one last shot, but unfortunately, it's still toxic. You know, but we refuse to remember what happened before. You see what I'm saying? We refuse to remember what happened before, but we know what happened before. And there's a lot more that they're getting, that this relationship is getting away with this time than they did the last time. But they said that they changed. They said that they're, a better person. You see what I'm saying? But it's the same crap, just a little bit more volatile. You know? It's very blatant, just in my personal opinion. I can prep too. Thank you so much for the love. To the rest of the world, the U.S. is either doing too much or not enough. But either way, they are always the ones turn to for the answer. You got a point. You do have a point. You do. But within this situation, did we really have to be the one to answer the call? Like, I feel like eventually we would have had to go back out there at some point to fight. But I feel like it would have been it would have been on our terms. This has to do with Israel. I truly believe that. I think that this all has to do with Israel. All of it. The decisions that have been made right now, they're being made by Israel. So are we just doing it as a favor? Or what? I don't know. Something weird. Some weird's going on. Okay, Evolved Niche, welcome back. Thank you so much for becoming a member again or re-upping. I appreciate it. Superman, thank you so much for the super sticker. I really do appreciate it as well. And General Genobi, we have had some type of chaos every day since it began last year. They thrive on it, yelling, firing, demeaning, degrading people every day. That is true. Like, this is not like this administration, for what I've realized and from what I've seen, this is not the kind of administration that is diplomatic, caring, kind. Sure, in their minds they are trying to do the best that they believe they can to make America better, right? To make America great again. But there's something about this that just screams, like I said, is the toxic relationship. Except now they say they've changed, but they really haven't. And we're just kind of being like, okay, well, we're stuck here. I guess we're just going to have to deal with it. It's a sad and messed up situation. But as you can see, there are people out here that are supportive of the war. And then there are people that are not. There are allegedly soldiers that are literally declining to go if they are told to go. There are literally, allegedly, soldiers that are in Iran right now as we speak, and they're saying that Iran is winning the war. That's insane. Now, that's just, soldiers putting up things on social media, and they can all be fake news. Could all just be fake, messed up propaganda. But what's crazy is that it doesn't sound like a far-fetched idea. Can I just say this? If we were winning, Why would we have to bring in more troops? Like, remember the 12-day war? We flew in, we did our thing, and then we left. And everything stopped. We won that ish. Oh, absolutely. We made them shiver, to be shaken in the boots, right? But now we're still out there. Still. Third week into this mug, and we still out there. So are we really kicking ass and taking names? Sure, we're sinking battleships and all that, and they're all in the bottom of the sea. You know what I mean? Like, and that's cool. But at the same time, we still haven't gone on land. And now we're about to, because now we got Marines being sent out. Troops are going to be boots on the ground here, which I consider technically boots on the ground. Doesn't matter if they are land and sea. Okay, they are going on land. Troops will be on the ground. So, are we really winning? Are we really winning? Because if we were winning, we'd be done by now. And they'd be boasting about it, right? This is the most precise, perfect attack we've ever had. Done in 3 days. We had a war that we started and ended in 3 days. Nah, we in third week. And now we have terrorist attacks going on domestic soil. We have Air Force bases being on lockdown right now. We got all this crazy mucky muck going on all at the same time while this war is going on overseas. Sleeper cells activated. A worldwide threat going on right now as we speak. So it's not only in America. There are other countries in harm's way because of what's going on in Iran. This does not sound very good at all, in my personal opinion. And if things don't get wrapped up and nipped in the bud very, very soon, this could very well be a recipe for absolute disaster. I truly think that Trump bit off way more than he could chew. And now we're in it. We're in it until he says, at least he says, until he decides it's time to leave. He's had plenty of opportunities to do that, guys. Plenty of opportunities to kick rocks, and we are still here. Pretty nutty, if you ask me. But guys, that is the show. I appreciate all y'all for being here. It really means a lot. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being here. If I can make it, I'll be on tonight to check out Tucker Carlson's interview with Joe Kent. If not, we'll see it first thing in the morning. Okay? But I got to get going, unfortunately. Stay safe out there, guys, please. All right? But please do me a favor before you head out. Hit that like button down below. We're almost at 1K, so if you can hit that like button down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. Crush it, do what it do. Hit that reaction button if you're watching on these other platforms. Make sure you hit that follow button on those platforms that you're watching on, like Facebook, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Rumble, Twitch, Kick. Subscribe. Make sure you're subscribed, please, and thank you to this YouTube channel. Don't forget to do that. Of course, don't forget to check out my Patreon. Hit that join button down below, become a member. Check out my Patreon. And, of course, check out PascalMerch.com. All right? Thank you so much for the congratulations on 200,000. Yes, it's an amazing thing. Here comes 300,000. So let's get it. All right? But anyway, guys, it is time to get going. Much love to you guys. I may be back on this evening, hopefully, depending on what time, okay? But we'll be talking here soon. But until then, be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. This is The Pascal Show. Bye.